This is a prophecy. And you know, dearest friends, according to our tradition, the prophets did not just tell their prophecy, they would sing their prophecy. Can you imagine on the streets of Jerusalem, the time of the Holy Temple? I'm sure the prophets had their own orchestration, all kind of instruments. They would stand on street corners and sing their prophecy. This is one of the holiest prophecies. And it's true, it's becoming more true every second. Days are coming, days are coming. There'll be a hunger in the world, there'll be a hunger in the world. But the hunger will not be for bread, and the thirst will not be for water, but to hear the word of God. Haven't you seen people walking the streets, hungry, thirsty, waiting for something holy, something beautiful to happen? Haven't you seen children asking for everything, but what they really need is peace? Somebody come and teach me, what is it to be alive? What is it to be a human being? What is it to be a Jew? Hine yamim va'imnu Hashem yishlach tirava Torah l'lechem velo tzama alamayim Tirara la 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 Tirara la 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 Tirara la 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 Lord Alechem, Lord Zamalamayim, Leshmoa, Hashem. Lord Alechem, Lord Zamalamayim, Leshmoa, Leshmoa, Hashem. Well, let me tell you something, friends. The difference between hungry for bread, thirsty for water, or being hungry for God, for something holy and beautiful in life, is that people are ashamed to ask for it. So you need good ears. Parents, you need good ears. Your children might ask you for anything in this world, but what they really mean, please, 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 teach me what is it to be a Jew. Teach me what Yerushalayim is all about. Teach me what God is all about. Teach me what love is all about. Days are coming. Days are coming. Days are coming.
unusual to say the least. We'll be back with more of Shlomo Carlebach on JLTV right after these messages. JLTV, America's chosen network, presents The Soul of Shlomo Carlebach. This 1 hour is dedicated to him, his life, and to all of us who enjoy these special words and special notes. And on guitar is Neil Seidel.
You know, we are waiting for the whole world to get together. We are waiting for the whole world to get together. We are waiting that people from the most distant islands, from the highest mountains, from the deepest valleys, to come to Yerushalayim, to come to the holy city. You know, my darling friends, God is the King of the world. But until all of mankind will get together, God has no crown. So we are praying that the whole world get together, and let them bring God back his crown.
One of the great composers and singers and inspirationalists, the soul of Shlomo Carlebach. And on guitar is Neil Seidel, one of the great guitarists of the day.
again, return again, return to the land of your soul. Return to who you are, return to what you are, return to where you were before then.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and welcome to this week's Torah study. I am Hakham Melech ben Yaakov of the World Alliance of Qara'im, and this week we are right in the middle of Exodus. We're going to be talking a lot about the Mishkan, the construction of the Mishkan. We're going to be in Parshat Vayakhel, and that's Exodus 35, 1 through 38, 20. Maybe I should put that up. Does that work? Okay, well, we'll get there when we get there. So first of all, thank you for all of those who wished me well and were concerned about this cold/cough that I've had for like the past two and a half months almost. My God, it's been a long time, but it really is. It really is getting better. It's just I've never had anything like this before. I usually have a cold and it goes away. I usually don't have colds at all because I try to live a very, very healthy lifestyle. I eat mostly. I call myself mostly vegan, mostly organic, mostly raw. And the mostly is the asterisk. I'm not completely vegan. I do eat cheese and dairy products and eggs and fish and once in a blue moon chicken. I do eat mostly organic, including many of the stuff from the backyard here. We have a whole garden growing in the backyard here, so I will pick off stuff from there. But in the wintertime and the early spring, there's not much. So unfortunately, I have to be like all the other fools that have to pick stuff off of the grocery aisle, the vegetable section of the grocery aisle. In the summertime, I laugh at those fools. Sorry, if you are those fools. But in the summertime, I laugh at them because I don't even go near the fruit or vegetable aisle at all. I just pick everything right out of the garden in the back, and that's the best way to do it. But I'm not completely organic. Once in a while, we'll eat non-organic stuff. And then raw, I eat a lot of raw foods, a lot of salads, nuts, especially. I eat a lot of nuts, a lot of raw fruits and vegetables, but I don't eat completely raw. So I always like to say mostly vegan, mostly organic, mostly raw. And that usually means that I get zero colds or like never get sick. Or get sick. If I do get sick, usually it's in the wintertime and it's usually once, sometimes twice, and it usually is gone within a week. But this year it's been really weird. I don't know whether I had, as I've told some people, I don't know whether I had COVID or swine flu or who knows. I don't know. I don't really go to doctors. I didn't check it out because it wouldn't have made a difference anyway. I would have done the same treatment plan, which is just to eat a healthy lifestyle or, live a healthy lifestyle, maybe take some more extra oranges off the orange tree in the backyard. Get some rest, meditation, sit out in the sun, etc. So I didn't really care what I had, but it's lingering. It has lingered for a long time, but it's really, really this time. Still hear me coughing a little bit, but it really is at this point just kind of about gone. I hope it doesn't come back. It went away and then it came back. I don't know, whatever, who knows? But really, thank you for all of those who wished me well or were concerned. Everything hopefully is fine. I actually did something which I rarely do, which is go to a doctor to have it checked out. And he listened to my lungs and all this kind of stuff. And he said, no, there's no problem there. So we are good to go at this point. Anywho, that's that. But thank you, everyone. So let's see, what else can I say? I was speaking to a liberal friend of mine, an old high school friend back in New York, who I speak to once in a while. We speak on WhatsApp every once in a while. And he asked me what I thought about the Gaza war. And I said to him, I'm very upset about it. I'm very upset about the genocide that's going on there. He said, oh, really? He was surprised. I said, yeah. I said, it's very disappointing. There've only been 30,000 Gazans killed. I was hoping already the number would be up in the hundreds of thousands, maybe approaching 1 million. It's only been 30,000. So I'm very upset about the genocide. It's not going well at all. Really, we have to do a better job. Shabbat Shalom, Suriel. And of course, then there was the story about, I saw this on, let's see, where did I see this? Where did I see this? Where did I see this? I don't remember. Maybe it was Drudge. I don't remember, but there was a rabbi in Jaffa. Let's see if I can find it here. There was a rabbi in Jaffa who basically said, Jaffa rabbi genocide. Let's see if we can find this. Jewish rabbi encourages killing Gazans, even children. So I'm glad to see there's some rabbis who, I mean, I know a lot of Jews, religious Jews especially, and rabbis even, you know, secretly will say it and even out loud, but they usually won't say it that much in public. Let's see if I can share this. Settings. No, not settings. Present, share screen, home tab, rabbi encourages, there we go. Oh, but then I have to get my face. Oh, okay, there we go. Okay, so Jewish rabbi, an Israeli rabbi, let me blow this up. No, I should say blow it up. Let me enlarge it. Israeli rabbi urged the killing of women and children in the Gaza Strip and said he considered it a response to the teachings of halakha or Jewish law. It came from Eliyahu Mali in a video that was widely circulated Thursday on social media. Mali heads the Shirat, larger. Mali heads Shirat Moshe's religious school in Jaffa in central Israel, where students serve in the army. It's our mitzvah, holy war, that's called the Milchemet Mitzvah in Hebrew, and I think it's really the Rambam who gives the laws of the rules for that, or the rabbinical rules for that. But basically means, you know, everybody's got to go. Okay, so it's in our mitzvah, holy war, in our situation in Gaza, according to what the law says, not every soul shall live, and that's quoting Deuteronomy 20:16, I believe it's the verse. I know it's Deuteronomy 20, I believe verse 16. And the logic of this is very clear. If you do not kill them, they will kill you, said Mali. Absolutely true. He claimed that those described as vandals in today's holy war, or in today's war, are the children of the previous war whom we kept alive. And in reality, it is the women who produce terrorists. This means that this rule, do not keep alive every soul, is very clear in its concept. Either you or them, he said. Whoever comes to kill you, kill him first. That is a quote from the Talmud. Whoever comes to kill you with this concept does not only include the young men aged 16, 18, 20, or 30, who is now the young man aged 16, 18, 20, or 30, who is now pointing a weapon at you, but also the future generation, the children of Gaza, and those who produce the future generation, women of Gaza, because there really is no difference, he said. The leader of the opposition Labor Party, Merav Michaeli, condemned the rabbi's comments. Gee, shocking. Shocking that bitch would, condemn the rabbi's comments. Using halakha does not give any rabbi permission to present Judaism where Israel is bloodthirsty and vengeful. Michaeli wrote Friday on X. They're not even saying X, formerly Twitter anymore. Now it's just X. The statement directly affects the security of the state of Israel, and like other statements distorted in the name of halakha, our enemy will use it in fighting on the international stage, he said. So basically what this bitch is saying is, don't say it out loud, right? Let's read that again. So Merav Michaeli, a left-winger, said, this statement directly affects the security of the state of Israel, and like other statements distorted in the name of halakha, our enemy will use it in fighting on the international stage, she said. So basically what she's saying is, if you're going to say it, just, don't say it out loud. I demand the army and the Ministry of Defense to stop cooperating with the religious school, Shirat Moshe in Jaffa, until the rabbi is dismissed. The Israeli army must not allow such dangerous moral corruption within its ranks. Well, bitch, you are the dangerous moral corruption. Okay? You are the one who is a Hellenist. You're the one who's a leftist. You're the one who is woke, whatever, label you want to give to it. You should be dismissed. Maybe you should be dismissed from Israel. Why don't you go live in Berlin or something like that? The Israeli Defamation League wrote on X, we strongly condemn the words of Rabbi Eliyahu Mali, of course, the head of Shirat Moshe Religious School in Jaffa, who calls for killing all inhabitants of Jaffa, including women and children. If more rabbis were like this, maybe I wouldn't have become a Karaite. I still would have become a Karaite. It added, the indiscriminate call to harm the innocent is a serious ethical injustice. Yes, that is true. It is an ethical injustice to harm the innocent. However, these people are not innocent. Just as this rabbi so correctly pointed out, these children will grow up to be the next Hamas terrorists. Their women will continue to support them. Their women will continue to applaud their children when their children die, or commit suicide attacks, or die in a jihad against the Jews. So there is not a single innocent person in all of Gaza, with maybe some minor exceptions. But you know what? That's, kill them all and let God sort them out, as they say, right? The indiscriminate call to harm the innocent is a serious ethical injustice which damages the actions of the army in Gaza during the war and distorts the image of the state of Israel in the world. Yeah, it certainly does. I wish the state of Israel were distorted in that way. If everybody knew that if you mess with Israel, you are going to get wiped out down to the last person, the last man, woman, and child, then yes, that would be a good image for the state of Israel, because less people would start messing with the state of Israel. More than 30,800 Palestinians have been killed. Sadly, only 30,800. And unfortunately, that's probably exaggerated, because that number is coming from Hamas. And nearly 73,000 injured in Israel's ongoing offensive in Gaza amid mass destruction and shortage of necessities. Palestinian groups estimate that blah, 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 blah. We get the idea. Okay, so there you go. Okay. So that's that. That is that article. So some rabbi in Jaffa said out loud what so many people in Israel believe and think, at least many on the right wing do. And thank God, it was picked up by the news, because that kind of news actually protects Israel. Because when the Gazans, when the rest of the Arabs, when the entire world knows that Israel will completely wipe you out if you mess with us, then that actually is a good image that the state of Israel wants to project to the rest of the world, and certainly wants to project to the enemies that live all around the state of Israel. They're not even real Arabs. They're leftover Canaanites and Hittites and God knows what, just the dredge of all the leftover nations combined with Arabs and God knows what, all mixed into a giant mishmash of people that hate Israel. So, okay, that is that. All right. So with that all being said, let's see, is there anything else I want to say? Yes, there is. I stick to my original prophecy. And I say prophecy in quotes. I don't claim to be a prophet. Never claimed to be a prophet. I am not a prophet. God has never come and spoken to me. I've never told anyone that God has come and spoken to me. I think he's given me insight into things, in the sense that he's shown me things through my life. And I don't mean like in visions or anything like that, you know what I mean, right? But nonetheless, my quote unquote prophecy is that this entire thing that's going on now is going to lead to the end of the state of Israel as we know it. The state of Israel as we know it is going to end. It's going to be decimated, and I won't say completely destroyed, because I don't think everyone in the state of Israel is going to die. But certainly, I think it's going to lead to the end of the current state of Israel. The current world order, as we know it, is going to end, and with it, the current state of Israel. Because what is the current state of Israel? The current state of Israel is not a true Torah-based state of Israel. It's a Western adjunct, right? I always like to say, it is a state that sucks on the teat of America and the West. So when the teat dies, as it is in the process of doing right now, then the sucklings die as well. And Israel we see what is going on in the West. We see what is going on in the United States of America, especially big cities like New York. I mean, that place is it's scary. I don't even want to go back there to visit, to be 100% honest. And if you like, there's a YouTube channel that I watch named Cash Jordan, and he's pretty good. He really is kind of documenting what's really going on in New York and how that city is just completely falling apart at the seams. Rampant crime and homelessness, and I hear voices all the time, but I don't think it's God. Yeah, it's your wife, Tsuri, telling you to, with her to-do list, with her honey-do list. I'm sure that's what that is. Anyway, so as the West falls apart, then there are many nations that are waiting in the wings, that think they are going to be the next leaders in the world once America, and this still is, it's coming close to the end, but it still is the age of the United States of America and the West right now, still led by the United States of America, right? But despite the lovely speech by Joe Biden the other day, his State of the Union speech, which I didn't even really watch. At any rate, there are many countries and cultures that think they're going to be next in line. For instance, China thinks it's going to be next in line once America falls, once the West falls. Russia thinks it's going to be next in line. I'm not even sure that Russia does. China for sure does. The Islamic world believes it's going to be next in line when the current world order falls. Who else? I don't know. Maybe that's the short list. But one thing that people are not taking into account is that I believe that the next big world power is going to be Israel. The next era is going to be the era of Israel, and this current state that we have, this current state of Israel cannot be the leader in this next phase of humanity. It is incapable, because once again, it is basically just a vassal state of the West. From its inception, it's been a vassal state of the West. It is to this day a vassal state of the West. It worships the West. The leaders dress like Westerners. They talk like Westerners. They act like Westerners. They think like Westerners. As an old rabbi of mine used to say, they're modern day Hellenists. That's exactly what they are. Just as the Hellenist Jews clung to Greek ideas and Greek traditions, and by the way, this includes the Pharisees that integrated their way of thinking with Hellenistic / Greek ways of thinking. Pharisaic Judaism is, to a certain degree, maybe to even a large degree, is Hellenistic thought, is based on Hellenistic thought, even though the rabbis pretend to be anti-Hellenistic. That's a story for another time. But the fact of the matter is, this current state of Israel cannot lead the world into the next phase of humanity. So it must fall. It must fall at some point, and it must be taken over, or must be, excuse me, must be supplanted by a true Torah-based state of Israel. And this true Torah-based state of Israel is not going to be a rabbinic / Pharisaic / Talmudic state. Impossible. Impossible. I tell you right now, there will be civil war in Israel before that will be allowed to happen. There will be civil war. It cannot happen. It will not happen. And the current state of Israel, the current state of the state of Israel, being a Western aligned, American vassal, that also cannot be the next stage in humanity, the next stage in the state of Israel. The only possibility, whether people realize it now or not, whether Israelis realize it now or not, whether world Jewry realizes it now or not, the only stage, the only next possible stage for the state of Israel, and the only possible way that it could take the reins and bring in the next era of humanity, being the next world power, is to return to true Torah, which means a Karaite, if you want to call it that, a Karaite, a Tanach-only, a biblical state, whatever you want to call it. That is the only way. The two current false gods of the state of Israel, as I always like to say, the God of Tel Aviv, which is the United States in the West, and the current God of Jerusalem, which is the Mishnah, the Talmud, the rabbis, the Pharisees, they cannot lead the next phase in the state of Israel, and therefore they cannot lead the next state in the phase of humanity. It is only Karaism, Karaite / biblical / Tanach-only, whatever name you want to give it, Judaism, I won't even say Judaism, Torah, that can lead the next stage in humanity. And that's where we're heading. That is definitely where we're heading. And the reason I brought up that this is my quote unquote prophecy, again, I say quote unquote, not a prophet, never have been a prophet. Okay, I'm a tender of sheep and a tender of sycamore trees. No, I'm not even that. But when I say prophecy, I mean it in quotes. A lot of times in the past, I have kind of second guessed my gut feelings or my prophecy, saying, no, maybe I'm wrong. It's not coming true. It's taking so long. So many people say I'm an idiot. So many people say that I'm wrong in my predictions. So it causes me to second guess it. But when I'm lying down at night in bed and it's just me and my thoughts, then I cannot help but think that this is correct, that we are very close to the end of the current state of Israel and the ushering in of a new era, a new state of Israel based on Tanach only, based on Tanakh, Bible, whatever you want to call it, Karaism, and the end of the hegemony of the West, and the ushering in the new era of humanity, the next stage in humanity, which is not going to be led by the West. It's not going to be led by China. It's not going to be led by Russia. It's not going to be led by Iran. It's not going to be led by the Muslims. It is going to be led by Israel, and that is going to be led by Israel as a Torah, slash biblical slash Tanach-only state. And this will only happen, or this can only happen, as the current state dies. After every death is a rebirth, just like Israel in ancient times, in a sense, died. They were exiled from their land by the Babylonians, or by the Assyrians, the Babylonians, later the Romans, and just as that led to a rebirth thousands of years later, we have now this vestigial state. Is that the right word? We have this stump-like state of Israel, this kind of placeholder for the real state of Israel, a stepping stone. I agree with the Dati Leumi, with the Rav Kookniks, that the state of Israel is Reshit Smichat Geulatenu. It's the beginning of the flourishing of our redemption, but it is only a stepping stone to the real state of Israel. And all of the people who've led this current state of Israel, yes, in a certain sense, they are to be congratulated, because they did usher Israel through this necessary stage that it had to get through. But they are traitors. They're traitors to their own people. They're traitors to the Torah. They're traitors to God. They are not, their hearts are not really with Yahweh, the God of Israel, with the Torah of Israel, and with the people of Israel. And their entire way of seeing things will be wiped out. And we see now, Netanyahu 5 years ago was standing strong. He Abraham Accords, and he was buddy with Trump, and the United States had just moved the American embassy to Jerusalem, and everything was looking great. And now look, the guy looks like, like you look at him and he just looks like a sad old sack of bones at this point. And now we see the end of a person, the end of a thing, the end of a philosophy always exposes the true nature of that person, that thing, that philosophy. We see now the true Benjamin Netanyahu, these true leaders, that they are useless. They are nothing. They are traitors. They are traitors to the God of Israel, to the people of Israel, and to the Torah of Israel. They've done absolutely nothing to promote and advance and expand Israel, to bring back true Jewish/Torah culture. All they have done is cause death and destruction. 1,200 dead Israelis on October 7th. And we see now the true essence and the true lack of character, the true lack of depth. We see them for this shallow, self-centered, Hellenistic, America worshiping shit that they are. We see what their truth was, and what so many people, including myself, I'm happy to say, recognized over the years. Now it's come to its end. It's these leaders, these people have exposed themselves for what they really are: useless, weak, traitors, meaningless placeholders in the march of Israel towards its ultimate destiny, which is the destiny of it being run as a true Torah-based biblical state. Amen. That's it. That's all I have to say. That is my opening monologue. Shalom, Aiden Larange. Oh, I know who Aiden Larange is. I have to get through all these pseudonyms of people who are, and I don't blame them, who are, want to keep kind of a low profile, because it's so controversial. It is so controversial to be a Karaite, to be a Tanach-only Israelite these days. Isn't it crazy? What an upside down world it is, that you can go out and you could proclaim to be a Christian, an outright idol worshiper, right? Where you literally have a god of wood or a god of stone. I mean, you are literally disobeying, right, the commandments. You literally have an idol. You have an image as your god. That's okay. It's okay to be a Pharisee/rabbinical Jew, where you've distorted the Torah and come up with a new Reform Judaism, as I always like to say. Rabbinical Judaism, Pharisaic/rabbinical Judaism is the first major Reform Judaism movement ever in the history of Judaism. It's not really the case. probably other ones before, in the sense of all the Baal worshippers of ancient times. But that's okay. Okay, but if you want to come out as a Karaite, as a Tanach-only Jew, as loyal to only Torah and Yahweh, then you are shunned. You're rejected. You literally could be threatened. I cannot go out on the streets of Jerusalem and preach charism, because I will literally be beaten up, or maybe even have acid thrown in my face. There have been incidents where people in Jerusalem have had acid thrown in their faces or killed. I'm serious. That's the upside down world we live in right now. And I've been reading this week through the book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah, who preached the truth, and people such as Jehoiakim, King Jehoiakim, and King Tzidkiyahu did not want to hear it. They put him through hell. Okay, they put him in jail. They put him in a dungeon. They threw him in a cistern, and where there was mud in the cistern, and then he had to be saved by Hakham Melech, a Kushi, who got 30 people to pull him out of the cistern. Okay, this guy, for speaking the truth, had to go through hell. Okay, and this is what all of us who try to cling to the truth, sadly, in this upside down world, in this olam hafuch, have to go through. But we have to just continue to do it, just as Jeremiah did. There's something in these prophets that just made them continue to speak the truth, no matter how dangerous it is, and we have to do the same. Okay, so with that said, let's dig in to this week's parsha. And I think we're going to do it a little bit differently today. I think I want to read through the parsha just in Hebrew first, and then we can go back and talk about it. Maybe we'll even put on a little bit of background music. So we are in Exodus 35. So we've got to go through 35, 36, 37, and 38, basically. And let's see if we can do that. Okay. Let me bring it up. Exodus 35. One second here. Oh boy. Bigger. That's big enough. Okay. Let me share the screen. Open the window. That's the one. Share. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to read through in Hebrew I always say without any commentary. I really will try to stick to it, but we'll keep it with minimal commentary. And let's see if we can, oh, shoot. No, that's not going to work. Let's see. How can we do this? Oh, I see. If I'm doing that, I can't do that. All right, let me try an experiment here. One second. No, I think it's going to be too complicated. Okay, forget my experiment. Okay, let's just run through here. Okay, so we're starting in Exodus 35. I'm going to read through just in the Hebrew and follow along your favorite language, be it English, Spanish, Serbian, whatever language you like. And here we go. And then we'll go back and we'll talk about it. So we're in Exodus chapter 35, verse 1. Vayakhel Moshe כל עדת בני ישראל ויאמר עליהם אלה הדברים אשר ציווה יהוה לעשות אותם. So this is Shabbat now. Okay. Another statement of Shabbat. There are a bunch of statements of Shabbat. I don't remember exactly how many throughout the Torah, about 5 or 6, which shows the importance of Shabbat. ששת ימים תעשה מלאכה וביום השביעי יהיה לכם קודש, שבת שבתון ליהוה. כל העושה בו מלאכה יומות. And this is the famous Exodus 35:3. לא תבערו אש בכל Do not kindle a fire throughout all of your habitations on the Shabbat day. Verse 4. ויאמר משה את כל עדת בני ישראל לאמור, זה הדבר אשר ציווה יהוה לאמור. קחו מאיתכם תרומה ליהוה, כל נדיב ליבו יביאך את תרומת יהוה, זהב וכסף וכסף ונחושת. תכלת וארגמן ותולעת שני. Tola'at shani is usually translated as crimson, but literally it means crimson made of worm. That raises the question, which we can talk about when we come back to it afterwards. Washesh wa'izim. Verse 7. We'orot elim mi'adamim we'orot tehashim atzei shitim. Verse 8. Washemen lima'or ubisamim לשמן, המשחה, ולקטורת הסמים. Verse 9, ואבני שוהם, ואבני מילואים לאפוד, ולחושן. Verse 10, וכל חכם לב בכם יבואו ויעשו את כל אשר ציווה יהוה. את המשכן, את אוכלו, ואת מכסהו, את קרסהו, ואת Kirashao, eth birihao, et mudao, wa eth adanao. Verse 12. Again, verse 12. Et ha'aron, wa eth bidao, wa et hakaporet, wa eth parocheth ha'masach. 2 at a time, 13 and 14. Et shulhan, wa et badao, wa et כל כליו, ואת לחם הפנים, ואת מררת המאור, ואת כליה, ואת נרותיה, ואת שמן המאור, ואת מזבח הקטורת, ואת בדאו, ואת שמן המשחה, ואת קטורת הסמים, ואת מסך הפתח, בפתח המשכן. So this is just a list of all of the things for the Mishkan, for the tabernacle, and the tent around the tabernacle that need to be built, right? And it's following a very interesting pattern. This and that and that and that and that. Okay, it's just a list. Et mizbach ha'orah wa et michbar hanachoshet asher lo et badao wa et kol kelao et hakior wa et kino. Et means, well, it's the objective particle, it's called. But you could think of it in this case as kind of like and. It means this, or I should say that. It's the word et is, there's no equivalent to it in English, but in biblical and in modern Hebrew, before an object that is a definite object, meaning it has the word the before it, or it's a proper name, you include the word et. So I'll give you an example in English. For those of you who know Hebrew, this is trivial, but for those of you who are learning or who don't know it yet, then if the equivalent in English would be something like, let's say, I walk the dog, I say in English, okay? But if we were to include the particle et the way they do in Hebrew, you would say, I walk et the dog, okay? It is a special word that comes before the direct object of a sentence when that direct object is a definite object. So if you want to say I walk a dog, then in Hebrew you would say ani mehalech kelev, I walk a dog. But if you want to say I walk the dog, you would say ani mehalech et hakelev. It's not exactly the way you say it in modern Hebrew. You say it ani metayalim im hakelev. But I want to show the et, so I'll say it that way. And if you want to say I walk Fido, you say ani mehalech et Fido. So if there's a definite object, if there's a definite noun for the direct object, then you get this word et. There's no equivalent to it in English. Okay, so I walk the dog would be using the Hebrew et. It would be I walk et the dog. But if you wanted to say I walk a dog, you would just say I walk a dog. Anyway, let's go back. Et kal'eh החצר, את עמודיו, ואת דוניה, ואת מסך שאר החצר. And by the way, this direct object, okay, these direct objects, what are they the object of? What's the subject here? Okay. So the first sentence, verse 10, בכל חכם לב בכם יבואו ויעשו את כל אשר ציווה יהוה. Every person who is wise of heart among you shall come and shall do everything that Yahweh commanded. Okay? The Mishkan, the tent, its cover. Okay? So shall do. Okay? Shall do. Okay, so the subject of the sentence is Kol chacham lev b'chem. Every wise person of wise heart among you. The verb, there are two verbs here, shall come and shall do. Shall come and shall do what? And then we have a whole list of objects, of direct objects. Everything that Yahweh commanded, that's one object, but there are multiple objects. It would be like saying, I walk Fido and Spot and Fluffy and Cujo, right? So there are many objects here. Okay, so do all that Yahweh commanded, the tabernacle, and it doesn't say and the tent, its cover, its clasps, etc. Okay, so this is basically one huge sentence. Okay, that every person who is wise of heart, subject of the sentence, shall come and shall do, the verb or the verbs of the sentence, and then a whole bunch of direct objects. And since they're direct objects, before each direct object, you have the particle et, and that's why you're hearing all of these ets. And then we just get a list of all of these things. Okay, I'm not doing what I said I was going to do, which is read through without commentary. Maybe I won't do that. Maybe that's too boring. At any rate, so so that's what you're getting here is that list of all of the things that these people who are wise of heart are going to do in order to build the tent of meeting and the tabernacle and the tent of meeting that goes around the tabernacle. Okay, and that's what we're getting here. We're getting that list. So where were we? I think we're around here, 16. Okay, et mizbach haolah, ואת מחבר הנחושת אשר לו, את בדאו, ואת כל כליו, את הכיאור, ואת קנו. Verse 17, את כלאי החצר, את עמודיו, ואת דוניה, את מסך שאר החצר. Verse 18, את יסודות המשכן, ואת יסודות החצר, ואת מיתריהם. Verse 19, את בגדי השרד לשרת בקודש, את בגדי הקודש לאהרון הכהן, ואת בגדי בניו לכהן. So, בגדי השרד, they translate this here as the clothes of the ministry. Sarad, it comes from to serve, like for instance in actually in biblical and in modern Hebrew, the word misrad would mean an office, not in the sense of, it also means an office in the sense of a place where a person sits and works on the word processor, but an office in the sense of let's say the office of the president or something like that. So this is like the official clothing, one could say, clothings of service, lisharet b'kodesh, to serve in the sanctuary. And the sanctuary would be a good translation for this word here. B'kodesh literally means in the holy place or the holy thing, and holy means, another word for holy is sanctified. That's where you get words like saint. Comes from that same Latin root, that same Romance language root, right? So this would best be translated as the sanctuary, okay, the holy area. Et bigdei hakodesh, okay, the holy clothing or the clothing of the sanctuary. Aaron the Kohen, to Aaron the priest, the Kohen. Et bigdei banav lekahen, and the clothing of his sons to serve as priests. Okay, all right. So that's that. Let's go on. So those are all of the things that these people who are wise of heart are going to now make. And now we go to verse 20. Again, follow along. We're in Exodus chapter 35, verse 20. ויצאו כל עדת בני ישראל מלפני משה, ויבואו כל איש אשר נשאו ליבו וכל אשר נדבה רוחו, אותו הביאו את תרומת יהוה למלאכת אוהל מועד ולכל עבודתו ולבגדי הקודש. So anyone who had the heart to donate material for making the Ohel Moed, the tent of meeting, and for all of the service and for the holy clothing, now they brought all of these donations. Verse 22. ויבואו האנשים על האנשים כל נדיב לב, and it says both the men and the women donated. הביאו חך ונזם ותעבד וקומז כל כלי זהב וכל איש אשר הניף תנופת זהב ליהוה. So how did they bring? So what did they bring here? It's talking about bringing gold, and basically it's talking about bringing their jewelry. So chach, nezem, tabat, kumaz can mean, you check different translations, you might, or if you check different English versions, you might get different translations, which again, as I always like to say, one of the things I like to say almost every Torah study is if you check 3 different English translations and you get 3 different translations for a word, what that really means is that nobody actually knows what that word really means. So here they translate it as earrings. Nezem is usually a nose ring. That's pretty solid. Let's see how they translate it here. Oops. Nose rings. Tabat, rings on the finger. Kumaz, necklaces. Kol klei zahav. So they're all made of gold. Okay, verse 23. בכל איש אשר נמצא איתו תכלת וארגמן ותולעת שני ושש ועזים ואורות אלים מאדמים ואורות תחשים הביאו. And now we're talking about different types of fabrics, different types of material. So tchelet, there's a lot to say about that one, right? Light blue or sky blue, argaman, purple, tola'at shani, usually understood as scarlet. And here for tola'ah, the word tola'ah in Hebrew means worm. So it might be perhaps the most logical explanation or the most common explanation is that it is crimson that is made out of worms. Okay. And in fact, I think we looked it up a couple of years ago, but I'd have to remember now. The way that crimson was made in ancient times was with a bug. I think it's called the scale bug or something like that. I can't remember. I'd have to look it up. Maybe we'll do that afterwards. But it's basically an insect from which this red dye was extracted. And this raises a big question. And I know that there are a number of people in, for instance, our WhatsApp group who disagree with this idea that it was made out of worms or out of some kind of insect, because worms and insects are non-kosher animals. But the most simple explanation is that it actually was. And we know that in ancient times that I don't know if it was the blood, somehow these insects were used to extract a scarlet or crimson color. In fact, we have the word vermilion. So for instance, in Portuguese, the word for red is vermelho. Okay, and we even have it in English, the word vermilion, which is like a red. Okay, see? So that's vermilion right there. It's kind of like a red. Okay, cinnamon, I guess it's like cinnamon color, but it's reddish. So what's the etymology of the word vermilion? Well, you can see the word vermilion. It comes from the word worm. Okay, in fact, let's read it here. Etymology and common name. Used first in English in the 13th century, the word vermilion came from the Old French word vermilion, which was derived from vermil for Latin vermiculus, the diminutive of the Latin word vermis for worm. The name originated because it had a similar color to the natural dye made from an insect, Kermes vermilio, which was widely used in Europe. And I think this Kermes vermilio is the insect that was used to make scarlet. The first recorded use of vermilion as a color name was in English was in 1289. Blah blah blah. So we'll go on. Again, if we have time, maybe we'll go back. I know last year and I think the year before, we spent a lot of time looking at the possible meanings of each of these types of materials or these dyed materials. Okay. We also have a big question about tchelet. Okay, so tchelet, the rabbis say, is made from a snail. Used to be named the Murex trunculus. It's now been renamed to the Hexaplex trunculus. We can look at this little creature. That guy. So there's an extraction process. They crush the shells, and I don't remember the whole thing, but you can look it up. And they are able to make, under certain conditions, they're able to make a sky blue color out of it. The rabbis in ancient times, already in the times of the Mishnah, believed that this was the only material out of which tchelet can be made. And there's a lot of question about that. So the rabbis say that the oral law tells us that tchelet is made out of this little guy here, this Hexaplex trunculus. The only problem is that this Hexaplex trunculus was very well known in ancient times, and it was not made. It was not used to make sky blue. To use tchelet, let's even get maybe a picture of tchelet. So tchelet, we know, right? So nobody knows exactly what color it is, but it's believed that it's, there you go. There's a picture of tzitzit, and that blue thread is tchelet. That's commandment, that there should be a petit tchelet in the tzitzit. What people also don't realize is that in the garments of the high priest, there are also blue threads. There are two, if I remember correctly. One is, let's even get a picture of it. Priestly garments. High priest. So there we go. Okay, let me get that picture up. No. Okay, whatever, take my cookies. Okay, get this bigger. Oh, there you go. You get the idea. And if I remember correctly, this gold band that says Kadosh Li Yahweh is tied to the turban, which is called the mitznefet, with a petit tchelet, with a blue thread. And also, if I remember correctly, the Choshen Mishpat, I might be wrong about this, I have to go back and check, but the Choshen Mishpat, the breastplate of judgment, is tied to what's called the ephod, this most outer garment, this colorful outer garment, also with, I think the thread or the fabric here includes also petit tchelet. The point is that this thread, this blue thread, doesn't only appear on the tzitzit, it also appears on the garments of the high priest, and it mentions explicitly. It says petit tchelet. It says a thread of blue or a thread of tchelet. Same phrase that is used for there are 11 viewers on X. That's weird. That's never happened before. That is used for the tzitzit. Okay. At any rate, I have a lot to say about this, but the main thing I'm going to say about this is that this Hexaplex trunculus, this Murex trunculus, is not known for making tchelet. It's not known for making blue. It's known actually for making purple. It was the species that was used to make what was called ultimately royal purple. And in 2018, I visited the city of Carthage, which is now just outside the modern city of Tunis, the capital of Tunisia in northern Africa. And Carthage it ultimately became the major city of the Phoenicians after the original Phoenician cities on the coasts of Israel and Lebanon basically reduced in power and became vassals of the Assyrian state. But the Phoenicians were known for making purple fabric out of the hexaplex trunculus. Okay, in fact, the word Phoenicians means the purple people. So Phoenician, I think it's called Phoenician, but Tyrian purple. So Tyrian, no, talk about that in a second. So there's Tyrian purple, also known as royal purple. We could read just drop about that from Rabbi Wikipedia. So Tyrian purple, also known as royal purple, imperial purple, or imperial dye, is a reddish purple natural dye. Here we have some pictures of it over here on the right. It's a reddish purple natural dye. The name Tyrian refers to Tyre, Lebanon. So Tyre or Tzur, which is mentioned many, many times in the Tanakh, was one of the major cities of the Phoenicians. You had Tzur. You had the two major ones really were Tzur and Sidon, in English called Tyre and Sidon. It is secreted by several species of predatory sea snails in the family Myricidae, rock snails originally known by the name Murex. And here we have our hexaplex trunculus, blah, blah, blah. In ancient times, extracting this dye involved tens of thousands of snails and substantial labor, and as a result, the dye was highly valued. The color compound is blah, blah, blah. Okay, so to make a long story very short, the Phoenicians were known. They became a global empire, or a global string of city-states. They were never really a unified empire, but they were a culture and a bunch of city-states, and they became, I would say globally known, but they became known all around the Mediterranean, particularly for their production of this Tyrian or royal purple. And we see some samples of it here, the colors that you can get out of it. That is using the hexaplex trunculus, the same species that the rabbis claim that is the tchelet, the sky blue, right? That is this color. Where is it? That is this color, and that using the hexaplex trunculus to make the tchelet is ordained by the oral law, the quote unquote oral law of the rabbis. That is the only production method, or the only source of tchelet that is quote unquote kosher, or that is ordained by the Torah. So there are a lot of problems with this, and again, I could talk about this for the next hour, but I won't. And yes, you can, under very specific circumstances, you can extract blue, you can extract tchelet from this guy here, this hexaplex trunculus. But the hexaplex trunculus was not known for extracting tchelet. It was known for extracting purple, Tyrian purple. And you have to modify the process to extract tchelet. It's a more difficult process to extract tchelet. And there are many other sources of tchelet, of blue, which were used in the ancient world, which were much more common than the hexaplex trunculus. Some of them including indigo, which is a plant from India. That's why it's called indigo. Woad, another plant. And then there was a stone called lapis lazuli. That was probably not the source of tchelet, but I just mentioned it anyway because this was another source of blue in the ancient world. So the four sources for blue, the four major sources for blue dye in the ancient world were woad, a plant, indigo, lapis lazuli, and the hexaplex trunculus, with the hexaplex trunculus being the most unlikely candidate for being used to produce tchelet, for being used to produce blue, because it was not naturally made, or is not naturally used to produce blue. It was naturally used to produce this Tyrian purple. I'm guessing that what happened is the rabbis at a certain point came along and said, well, we want to be like the Phoenicians, or we want to be like, the Mediterranean world, which values dyes made from this hexaplex trunculus. So we're going to take the hexaplex trunculus, we're going to modify the process a little bit, and we're going to somehow use it to make tchelet, and that's what we're going to use to dye our tzitzit with. And then we're going to lie with our fake oral law and say that this was ordained from the time of Moses to use the hexaplex trunculus to make the techelet. That's what I suspect and assume actually was what went on. But as we said, there are other sources, much more likely sources for the color techelet. We can look at a couple of them. Indigo is one. Indigo. Indigo. Maybe I should add the word color. Okay. So there's indigo, kind of a dark blue. Here it looks purple. There we go. Indigo dye there. It looks very blue, beautiful blue. And it comes from, well, we could read it. So indigo is a term used for a number of hues in the region of blue. The word comes from the ancient dye of the same name. The term indigo can refer to the color of the dye. Various colors of fabric dyed with indigo dye, spectral color, blah, 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 blah. It can include various shades of blue, ultramarine, and green blue. Okay, we can skip all that. So the word indigo comes from the Latin word indicum, meaning Indian, as the plant-based dye was originally exported to Europe from India. Skip this a little bit. Isaac Newton regarded indigo as a color in the visible spectrum, so we know, right? Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, blue, green, indigo, violet. It's one of the 7 colors in the rainbow. And no, the gays do not own the rainbow. We own the rainbow. They stole it from us. Okay. So indigo dye is a blue color obtained from several different types of plants. The indigo plant, Indigofera tinctora, often called true indigo, probably produces the best results, although several others are close in color, Japanese indigo, etc. Okay, and there's a whole history of indigo, as you can imagine. Okay, so that's one very probable source for techelet. Another one is woad. Let's look at woad, and I know my good friends Ariella and Ben, this is their techelet of choice, but their reasoning is that you cannot have unkosher animals for use in things such as the priestly garments or the covering for the tent of meeting. And I'm not so sure about that, to be 100% honest, because things like tola atshani literally mean worm crimson, although there are ideas that it doesn't mean exactly that, or it means like crimson in the color of worm crimson or something like that. Okay, anyway, let's look at woad. So woad, you can read this a little bit. So Isastis tinctora, also called woad, dyer's weed, or glassnum, is a flowering plant in the family Brassicaceae, the mustard family. And in fact, if you look at the leaves here, they do look very similar to mustard leaves. With a document, and mustard is also related to things like it's from the same family or the same. I guess it would have to be family, yeah, maybe from the same genus as things like cabbage is in that family. What else? I'm trying to think offhand. I don't remember offhand. Okay, with a documented history of a use of blue dye and medicinal plant, its genus name Isatis derives from the ancient Greek word for the plant. It is occasionally known as asp of Jerusalem, as opposed to Benjamin Netanyahu, who's known as the ass of Jerusalem. Woad is also the name of a blue dye produced from the leaves of the plant. Woad is native to the steppe and desert zones of the Caucasus, Central Asia, and to Eastern Siberia and Western Asia, but is now also found in Southeastern and Central Europe and Western North America. Since ancient times, woad was an important source of blue dye and was cultivated throughout Europe, especially in Western and Southern Europe. In medieval times, there were important woad growing regions in England, Germany, and France. Towns such as Toulouse, we can skip this a little bit. Okay, so history of woad cultivation. Whoa, Shoshi boy, not scratch here. The first archaeological finds of woad seeds date to the Neolithic period. Skip that a little bit. seed and blah, blah, blah. I think we can skip this. You get the idea, okay? Okay, so blue dye made from this plant, woad. And then we have lapis lazuli, which is a stone. In fact, it's one of the stones in the breastplate that has 12 stones. Okay, so there's an example of lapis lazuli, and you can grind, or I think you can scrape off a powder from it and then use it also as a dye, but it was not as common. It was very expensive. Hold on a second. Let me just let the cat outside. Joshi boy, what are you doing? Come here, you. What are you doing? Very silly. Come here. Come here. Out. Go. Okay. Alrighty. So there you go. So those are the four main sources of, or possible sources for techelet, for this blue that's supposed to be used in the tzitzit, in the tzitz of the high priest. And notice the name tzitz is related to the name tzitzit. Okay, tzitzit means it's a diminutive form of the word tzitz. The tzitz is the gold band that goes around the priest's head, and it's tied to the turban of the mitznefet with a patil techelet, just as in the tzitzit we have a patil techelet. So the tzitzit is, I believe, or it's very possible that the tzitzit is supposed to be kind of like the non-priestly or the common man's analog of what the high priest wears with the tzitz with that gold band that says Kadosh Yahweh, right? Just as he has the patil techelet that ties it to the turban, so we, as non-Kohanim, and I am not a Kohen, I'm just a regular Israelite, we have the tzitzit, or we have the patil techelet in the tzitzit. Okay, so it's very possible that's the analog, the common man's or the common Israelites analog to the high priest's tzitz. Okay, so they use badger skins in the temple. We will get to that. It's not clear. You're talking about the word tachash. We'll get to that word in a second, and it's not clear what that word tachash means. Okay, now I went off on a tangent. I'm getting into one of my favorite topics, which is the sources of these various substances. So, all right. Okay. So be it. Anywho, if we were to list from most likely to least likely the source of the techelet, again, there's our techelet, okay? Or there's our techelet, where's our high priest garment? Right there in the tzitz. Then the most likely would probably be woad. Next would probably be indigo. Then you probably third would be a toss-up between lapis lazuli and our hexaplex trunculus dude. Okay, probably hexaplex trunculus would be 3, and to be honest, lapis lazuli would be 4. But hexaplex trunculus is much less likely to have been used in ancient times because the rabbis enshrined it, because they were Hellenists, even though they rage against Hellenism. They were essentially Hellenists following the ways of the Greeks and the Romans that worshipped this, this Tyrian purple, that considered it a royal dye, that considered it an exclusive, expensive dye. So following the way of the Greeks and the Romans, despite their claims otherwise, their anti-Hellenist claims, they really were major Hellenists. They were their form of Reform Judaism, known as Pharisaic/rabbinical Judaism, is essentially a melding between true Torah and Hellenistic thought. And I could point to a very excellent article on this topic, which maybe I will in a second. At any rate, this is probably why the rabbis, the Pharisees, elevated it to be the only source of blue dye by modifying the basic process, which again produces the Tyrian purple, and somehow or another coming up with a modified process that is able to spit out some what is blue or sky blue. And then lying to the people, saying that this is what Moses ordained 2,000. Well, at that point, it would have been 1,000 and change years earlier in their quote unquote fake quote unquote oral law, saying that this is what Moses ordained all along. I also imagine that they made a lot of money because this stuff was expensive, and it's even more expensive to produce from it a tchelet than it is to produce Tyrian purple. Tyrian purple was already expensive. That's why it was considered such an exclusive. Anything dyed with it was considered an exclusive fabric. It was considered such an exclusive dye. Then you had to modify the process, and it didn't always come out correct to make tchelet from the hexaplex trunculus. So I assume the Pharisees were making a lot of money. You know, they were making a lot of, making a nice chunk of change, selling this shit to the unsuspecting Israelites, rather than selling the extremely inexpensive woad or the extremely inexpensive indigo. So I mean, supply and demand. If you can sell an unkosher snail, at 25 times the price, you can have a nice life. People do that to this day. All right. So yeah, that's that. Let's move on a little bit. And let's talk about, so Suri mentioned these badger skins. So what he's talking about is this word tachash, not to be confused with tachat or tuchas, although maybe they were badger tuchases, I don't know, but tachashim. So nobody knows what tachashim means. I will bring up very quickly, close all this off. I will bring up very quickly, just give me a second here. Oops. We'll bring up very quickly the different ideas of what tachash is. Just give me a second here. Torah sheets. One second. Okay. Oh boy. So let's expand this a little bit. Okay, good enough. So tabernacle materials. So here's our list of tabernacle materials that we made. I think it was a year ago or 2 years ago. Tachashim, translation, English translation, nobody really knows. And here are the different possible translations that have been proposed. Dolphin, dugong, seal, porpoise. So all of those are marine mammals. Goat, badger, tanned leather, fine leather, blue skins. Let's look at Robert Alter and see what he says about that one. Well, he might not mention it there because Tachash is already mentioned earlier. I don't know if he's even going to mention it there. So no, let's not look it up. You have to probably find the first time that Tachash is mentioned, not here. Okay. I guess I could do a search. Nah, I'm not going to do that. So I don't know. At any rate, nobody really knows exactly what tachash means, and those are the various translations that have been proposed. Okay, we can look at Everett Fox. Oh, I know what we can do. Robert Alter. Let's go to Robert Alter for a second. Robert Alter. Let's bring up Everett Fox while we're at it. So these are two excellent Torah translations, known to be very accurate Jewish translations or insightful Jewish translations. And if we look here, so this is Exodus 35:23. We'll look at Everett Fox first. Okay. Good. 35:23. Yeah, so he translates it as tanned leather skins. Okay, so we don't see anything about badgers or dugongs. Robert Alter, Exodus 35:23. Okay, oh, there we go, 23. So he translates it as ochre dyed skins. I think, wait, what's the order here? Takashim Mivio, yeah, it's the last one. Make sure I got that right. Yeah, so Everett Fox translates it as tanned leather skins. And Robert Alter translates it as ochre dyed skins. So what is ochre? I think that's also a form of blue. Let me look that up for myself. Oh, not blue, orangish. Okay. So those are two excellent translations, and neither of them mention porpoises or badgers or dugongs. Okay, they just call them Everett Fox tan leather skins and Robert Alter ochre dyed skins. So the point being that nobody is sure really what it means. It's definitely not a slam dunk to say that it means badger, or the most common one that I've seen is dolphin, actually. But where are you going to get dolphins, right? What doesn't make sense about that, obviously, about any of these sea mammals, is where you're going to get sea mammals in the middle of the desert. Okay, I guess you can say that the Israelites got it from their Egyptian neighbors when they left Egypt. Okay, fair enough. But but nobody knows. Okay, we can look at one of my favorite rabbinical commentators, who really is a quasi and maybe even a closet Karaite, and we've looked at him many times. He's my go-to rabbinical commentator. That's the Ibn Ezra. Excellent, excellent commentator, as opposed to my least favorite commentator, and that's Rashi. I'll tell you a funny story in a second. So we got to go here. Torah, Safaria. Let's see what Ibn Ezra says. Now, he's not always right, not because he's not an excellent commentator. He is, but he commented in 12th century, if I'm not mistaken. And it just wasn't, information wasn't as readily available back then as it is now. So when it comes to things like identifying the source species for a particular word in the Torah, it's not going to be, it's not going to be, would not have been as easy for him to do it as modern scholars such as Robert Alter. But let's take a look and see what he has to say. So here's my least favorite rabbinical commentator. This Rashi is basically almost like a demigod to the rabbis. I call him Rash, and I say they think he's the greatest commentator for some bizarre reason. They say he's a Peshat commentator, that he gives the Peshat, the simple explanation of the verse. It could not be farther from the truth, but this just shows how twisted the rabbinical minds are, because he will give the most midrashic, the most off-the-wall interpretation of a verse, and then the rabbis will believe that to be the simple explanation. They'll say, I don't know, bizarre things, like a lot of his stuff he gets from the midrash, but I remember one that I had a friend who actually left rabbinical Judaism over this explanation. When they taught him this in yeshiva, he said, that's it, I'm out of here. And it was that Og, that in Noah's ark, Og hung off, he held on to, who's Og? Og is the Amorite giant that was later conquered by Moses just before the Israelites enter the land of Israel. And so Rashi, quoting some midrash, God knows where, I'd have to look it up, says that this giant Og, the king of the Amorites, clung to the side of Noah's ark, and that's how he was able to survive. And why do we need him surviving? Because it speaks about how the giants were in the land at that time, but that everyone was killed in the flood. So how did the giants survive the flood? Because it mentions the giants later. Okay, that's a fair question. We won't get into that right now, but Rashi comes along and says, oh, the answer is really simple. King Og, who only appears much later in the time of Moses, hung off the side of Noah's ark, And that's the way he was able to survive the flood. And that's the way the giants were able to repopulate the earth afterwards. And eventually he was killed by Moses before the Israelites entered the land of Israel. Does that sound like the simple explanation of a verse to you? It doesn't to me. So I don't call him Rashi. I call him Rash. And I remember many years ago when I used to use this one word processor as one of the earliest English Hebrew word processors. They built it in Jerusalem. I actually had a friend who worked for them. I can't remember the name of it for some reason. But when I would type in the word Rashi in English, it would correct it. It would autocorrect it. It wouldn't autocorrect because it wasn't correct autocorrect back then, but it would underline it. And then the suggestion would be, instead of Rashi, would be Rash. I said, okay, that's perfect. So I call him Rash because he is a rash on the skin of the people of Israel and has been for centuries. But next to him is Ibn Ezra, one of my favorite rabbinical commentators, and he was kind of a quasi-Karaite, or perhaps even a closeted Karaite. And he's an excellent commentator, and he really does give the simple explanation of Pshat. He gives grammatical explanations. He gives very, very brilliant explanations. So let's go take a look and see what he has to say, if anything. He might not mention here, because again, this is not the first time that Tachash is mentioned, but we'll see what we can make of it. So this is Exodus 35:23, Ibn Ezra. I have a feeling he won't say anything here because, again, it's not. He would give his comment on Tachash the first time that Tachash is mentioned, but let's see. What am I doing here? Ibn Ezra. Oh, whoa. I'm confused. Let's try that again. What is going on? Okay, let's go back to the beginning. Excuse me. So, Ibn Ezra, Exodus 35. $23. What? I guess Safari changed the way it does things. All right, one more try. Tanach. Ibn Ezra, Exodus 35, 23. And this comes up. I don't understand it. I guess Safari is having some problems. Commentary, loading. Resources, loading. Okay, forget about it. No Ibn Ezra. Okay, so let me see. Yep, their minds are as twisted, Suriel, as the tzitzits that they claim has a string of Murex trunculus of sea snail. Okay, well, let's move on then. So, all right, so there we go. So I guess we're up to this verse. Let's continue in 24, and we'll move on. Any questions, any comments so far? Okay, let's move on. So, verse 24. כל מרים תרומת כסף ונחושת הביאו את תרומת יהוה בכל אשר נמצא איתו. Let's say shittim, acacia wood. So everything is pretty much made out of acacia wood. If I'm not mistaken, everything. No, the menorah is not. The menorah is made out of pure gold. And the ark cover is made out of pure gold. But other than that, everything is made out of acacia wood that is overlaid with either gold or copper. In the case of the altar of sacrifice is acacia wood overlaid with copper. The showbread is acacia wood overlaid with gold, if I'm not mistaken, and the incense altar is acacia wood overlaid with gold. So what is this acacia? You can find it growing all over Israel, especially southern Israel. And there's a picture. This is acacia wood, and it's found all over the desert, all over the desert parts of Israel. So it would have been very readily available. Let's take a picture of it. It would have been readily available in the desert. Okay. L'chol melechet avodah eviu. Verse 25. B'chol isha chachmat lev biyadeha tawu u'yaviu matweh et התכלת ואת הארגמן ואת תולעת השני ואת השש. So here we're speaking specifically about the women with wise hearts, with hearts of wisdom. And what did they do? They how do you say? They strung. No, that's not the right word. They made the fabrics, weaved. Thank you. How do they translate it here? Spun yarn. Yaviu matweh. So they spun the yarn, tawu. Yaviu matweh, and they brought that which they had spun. So I guess it's not the fabrics themselves. They're making the yarn. And here we have again all of these different types of fabrics, right? We didn't speak about shesh. Shesh is usually translated as fine linen, but also it's not really known exactly what it is. We find it here, shesh. There are many that say it's the byssal threads of mussels. These are the threads that the mussels meaning the sea mollusk, that it uses to attach itself to a substrate such as a rock or the hard floor of the sea. We won't get into that right now, but again, it's not 100% clear what shesh is. It's usually translated as fine linen. Verse 26. V'chol hanoshim asher nasa iban othana bechokma tawu et ha'ezim. So they made wool out of goat hair. Wahanashim, I'm sorry, Wahanisiim, הביאו את אבני השוחם ואת אבני המילואים לאפוד ולחושן. So they brought the shoham, usually translated and understood as onyx, although that's not clear, and the stones to be set within the ephod and the choshen. So what are we talking about there? If we look at the priestly garments, so there are two places that stones are inserted in the priestly garments, or the garment of the high priest, I should say. Come on, you can do it. How do I get this picture up? Interesting. Okay. Okay. I don't know if that's the best. Oh, jeez. Okay. So we see here. Oops. We see here. This is the Choshen Mishpat, usually translated as the breastplate of judgment. And here, these are the two Avnei Shoham, one here and one here. So each of these onyx stones, which are on the shoulder, basically they're on the shoulder pads of the high priest. Each one contains the name of 6 of the tribes of Israel, 6 here and 6 here. And then the Choshen Mishpat, the breastplate of judgment, has 12 stones representing the 12 tribes of Israel individually. Okay, so that's what it means here. That's what this verse means here. When it says, so the you should translate as princes, but the important ones, exalted ones, go with princes. That's the usual translation. So they are the leaders of the community, right? And they're also ostensibly wealthy, or at least they represent they represent the tribes, so they brought the wealth of the tribes, or they are the keepers of the wealth of the tribes. So they're bringing these gemstones, these expensive gemstones. Okay, so they brought the Avnei Shoham. Those are the onyx stones. Again, onyx stones. These are the two stones. That's referring to the two stones that are on the shoulder pads, on the shoulders of the high priest. And the Avnei Miluim, the stones that are set. And that's referring to these 12 stones in the breastplate of judgment. And we have here for the ephod and for the choshen. So this Avnei Shoham, the onyx stones are for the ephod, and the stones that are set stones are for the choshen, for the breastplate of judgment. Okay, so we see a very common biblical Hebrew grammatical structure here. Okay, which is we have two objects. We have two direct objects: the onyx stones. Oops, try that again. The onyx stones and the stones for the setting stones, the stones which are set. And then the first refers to the first object, the onyx stones, refers to the ephod. The ephod is that outer garment to which the onyx stones and the breastplate of judgment are attached. And the second one, the set stones, refers to the choshen, to the breastplate. So 1, 1, 2, 2. All right. Let's move on. Verse 28. ואת הבושם ואת השמן למאור ולשמן המשחה ולקטורת הסמים. So now we have the various shall we say ointments. So we have the spices and the olive oil for lighting and for anointing. Okay, verse 29. Again, maybe I want to translations and I have something specific to say, so we can move ahead. כל איש ואישה אשר נדב ליבם אותם להביא לכל המלאכה אשר ציווה יהוה לעשות ביד משה, הביאו בני ישראל נדבה ליהוה. Okay, so every man and woman brought these materials, who had a heart, who had it in their heart to bring these materials, brought those materials. Okay, verse 30. ויאמר משה אל בני ישראל, ראו קרא יהוה בשם בצלאל בן אורי, בן הור למטה יהודה. Okay, so this is our chief artisan and our assistant chief artisan. Everybody remembers Bezalel, but everybody forgets Aholiav. Aholiav was Bezalel's assistant, just as Yoshua was Moses' assistant. So we could have, you remember your SATs, right? The analogies. So if you're taking the SAT, or your child is taking the SAT and you come across an analogy, do they even still do analogies on the SATs? I don't know. It was a big thing when I took the SATs. So if you have a question number 14, if it says Moses is to Joshua as Bezalel is to, and there are 5 choices, tell your child to choose Aholiab. Something tells me that such a question will not appear on the SATs. Oh well. As America moves further and further away from its, as they like to call it, Judeo-Christian foundations, and moves closer and closer to, I don't know, basically ancient pagan, Sodom and Gomorrah type, culture, which of course, which mivaser, how do you say mivaser in English, is a harbinger for the end of the United States. I will talk about, before I forget, actually I have to plug in now. So let me do that. Let me plug in. Should I put on music? Nah, I'm not going to put on music. I'll be right back. Let me just get the plug and I'll be back in a second. Yeah, Yardain. I call these sections of the Torah flyover country, right? Nobody wants to focus on them, but I honestly think these are some of the most fascinating parts of the Torah. The priestly garments, the materials that are used in the Mishkan, the details of sacrificial service. They really are Torah flyover country, sadly. But if they're approached in the right way, and I'm sorry, maybe I'm not doing it the right way for you and your ADHD brain, but I really think they're fascinating because you really learn a lot about these ancient cultures and the details of how they worked, ancient Israel. Any rate, I know we'll get to more exciting stuff. Maybe we should go back and do the golden calf or something like this. Let's see, do we have any narrative in this? It's all flyover country. Let's see. Yeah, I'm sorry, dude. 38. It's all Torah flyover country this time, baby. What can I do? All right. But I will try to make it as exciting as possible. And I'll start by saying, so who is this Bezalel guy? Okay. Well, Bezalel is the son of a guy named Uri. Okay. So who's Uri? Is Uri mentioned anywhere? Not really. Let's check just to make sure. It's only mentioned in the context of being the father of Bezalel. But then Bezalel's grandfather is a guy named Hur. Okay, so who's Hur? Assuming it's the same guy, and I think it is. So let's go back to Exodus 17, and I'll just read it in the English to make it go quickly. Exodus 17. So this is the water from the rock. You guys remember that story? And let's start here. The Amalekites came and attacked the Israelites of Rephidim. Moses said to Joshua, choose some of our men and go out to fight the Amalekites. Tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill with the staff of God in my hands. Same staff that Moses used to split the Red Sea, which I claim is the same staff. I mean, I've mentioned this before. How did the staff become the staff of God? Okay, where did it become the staff of God? Remember, let's go back. I know I'm going on a little bit of a tangent here, but it's fine. Let's go back to the first time we see this magical staff. Moses was out. This is in Exodus 3. Moses was out shepherding his father-in-law's flock, and he comes to some place in the middle of nowhere, which turns out to be the mountain of God, which is Mount Sinai. While he's shepherding his flock, nothing has happened yet. He hasn't gone back to Egypt. He hasn't said, let my people go to Pharaoh, nothing. And he has this staff that he's just using to lean on, perhaps, or to walk with, a walking staff, or perhaps maybe to point at to prod the sheep that he's shepherding. And then he sees a bush that's burning in Exodus chapter 3, and God appears to him from the bush. Yahweh appears to him from the bush. And one of the things that Yahweh says is, take your staff, right? So Moses says, who are you? And how will the Israelites believe me? And Yahweh says, take your staff, throw it on the ground. It turned into a snake. Now pick up the snake by its tail, turn back into a staff. And that became the staff that Moses used throughout the entire or throughout the 10 plagues. Sometimes it says that Aaron, his brother, used it. It says Aaron's staff, but I believe it's that same magical staff. And then it was used by Moses to split the Red Sea. And now here it is again. Okay, it's that magical staff. It just happened to be the staff, the stick that he happened to be using. Where are we now? This is about a year, maybe 2 years earlier, a year and a half earlier, when he happened to be out shepherding his father-in-law's flock, just some staff that he had made. Who knows? Maybe he had it for years before that he happened to be using on the day that he was out shepherding his flock when when God appeared to him in the burning bush. And that became the staff of God. Isn't that interesting? I mean, people don't usually think of it in those terms, but that's that is really what the story is. Okay, so all right, so how do we get into that? Right. verse 10. So Joshua fought the Amalekites as Moses had ordered, and Moses, Aaron, and Hur went to the top of the hill. Oh, Hur. That's the same guy that's mentioned right here, right? Bezalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur. So this guy Hur, who did what? He went to the top of the hill while Joshua was fighting the Amalekites. Moses, Aaron, and Hur went to the top of the hill. As long as Moses held up his hands, the Israelites were winning, but whenever he lowered his hands, the Amalekites were winning. When Moses' hands grew tired, they took a stone and put it under him and sat on it. Aaron and Hur held his hands up, one on one side, one on the other, so that his hands remained steady till sunset. So Joshua overcame the Amalekite army with the sword. So this Bezalel, who's the chief artisan for all of the tabernacle, all of the worship of the cultic, and again, when I use that word cultic, I use it in the academic sense, in the structured worship of Yahweh. This Bezalel, who's the chief artisan for the Mishkan, is actually the grandson of this guy Hur, who was one of the two dudes that went up with Moses during the battle of the Amalekites, before the Israelites got to Sinai. Maybe it was just after the Israelites got to Sinai, and it was holding up Moses' hands as Joshua fought and the Israelites fought the Amalekites. Okay, so that's Hur. Okay, let's move on. You know what? I have an idea for you, Yarden. We're going to do the Haftarah after this. When I get to the end of this chapter, we'll go to the Haftarah, which is 2 Kings. Very interesting story there. Okay, Ben Hur Lamate Yehuda. Okay, from the tribe of Yehuda. So is the same Hur. So let's see where Hur is mentioned elsewhere. So the first time that Hur is mentioned is there. And then, yeah, son of Hur. Okay, right. So, okay. So it's the same order we're going to assume. Verse 31. Ruach Elohim b'chokhmah. I'm sorry, b'chokhmah, b'tevunah, u'v'da'at, u'b'chol melacha. Verse 32. Lachshov machshavot, la'asot ba'zahav, ba'kesef, u'b'nachoshet. Verse 33. ובחרושת אבן למעלות ובחרושת עץ לעשות בכל מלאכת מחשבת. Verse 34. ולהורות נתן בליבו הוא והוליאב בן אחיסמך למטה דן. So this is his assistant, Aholiab. So it's not a one-man show, it's kind of a two-man show. Bezalel and Aholiab. למטה דן, from the tribe of Dan. Verse 35, מילא אותם חוכמת לב לעשות כל מלאכת חרש וחושב ורוקם בתכלת ובארגמן ובתלעת השני ובשש והורג עושה כל מלאכה וחושבי מחשבות. Okay, so to make a long story short, these two guys, Bezalel and Aholiab, they are the chief and vice chief artisan for all of the works of the tabernacle, the sacrificial system, the clothes of the Levites, everything that has to do with it. Those are the chief and assistant chief artisans. Okay? All right, let's bring it over for the sake of Yarden, whose ADHD brain is just not connecting to Torah flyover country. Let's bring it over to the Haftarah. So we're going to go now to 2 Kings 12. And we have the story of Josiah. Now, Josiah was one of the righteous kings. Sadly, he was killed early in life and unexpectedly. But here we have the story of Josiah, and he has a very important role in Karaite polemics, and we're going to talk about that role. Right here. So let's talk about Josiah. Oops. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Yoash. I thought this was going to be Yoash. I'm sorry. Let's do Josiah. No, what am I doing here? Is it 12? Wasn't it 17? 1 second here. I'm so confused. Oh, it is 12. Ah, it's Joash. Okay. Okay. All right. We'll do the Haftarah. I thought it was Josiah for some reason. Let's see, where's Josiah mentioned again? He's in 2 Kings 22, right? Okay. All right. Let's do this. So Yoash. So who's Yoash? Let's refer to Rabbi Wikipedia and get a little context of who Yoash is. Okay, so Yoash, also known as Joash, blah 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 blah, was the 8th king of Judah and the sole surviving son of Ahaziah after the massacre of the royal family ordered by his grandmother Athaliah. His mother was Zibiah of Beersheba. Yoash was 7 years old when his reign began, and he reigned for 40 years. He was succeeded by his son Amatzi of Judah. He is said to have been righteous all the days of Yehoiada, the priest, but to have deviated from fidelity to Yahweh after Yehoiada's death. And so, okay, let's go into the narrative here. Okay, so we are in 2 Kings chapter 12. While wearing a clown nose and doing a hula dance. Okay, get the clown nose and the hula hoops. Okay, I'm gonna go for the clown nose and the hula dance. After 2 Kings 12. Okay, so here we go. Verse 1. Bishnat Sheva Yehu Malach Yehoash ו40 שנה מלך בירושלים בשם אמו צביעה מבאר שבע. So in the 7th year of Yehu, the king, the 7th year of Yehu, Yehoash reigned or assumed the throne. ו40 שנה מלך בירושלים. For 40 years he reigned in Jerusalem. בשם אמו, and his mother was Tzivia from Beersheba. Beersheba was the southernmost region of the kingdom of Judah, which is why, and when it was the United Kingdom, the kingdom of all of the United Kingdom of Israel, which is why sometimes you hear the phrase Medan ad Beersheba. Dan is all the way in the north near the Lebanese border. Beersheba is today it's not the southernmost area. It's on the way to Elat, you could say, kind of not far from the Dead Sea. But at that time, that was the southernmost border of the kingdom, the United Kingdom of Israel. Okay. Joash, Yahweh. So Joash, is that what they're calling him in English? Joash did that which was right in the eyes of Yahweh. Kol Yamav, all of his days are shared. Orahu Yehoyada HaKohen, just as Yehoyada, the priest, had instructed him. Verse 3, Rak Habamot Lo Saru. But he did not get rid of the Bamot. What are the Bamot? These are the high places. These are the places of where idol worship, where worship of the Baal, the Asherah, and other foreign gods took place. So usually they were worshipped on the tops of hills and the tops of mountains for obvious reasons, right? This is the most majestic place. If you're going to place a shrine to a foreign god, to an idol, this would be a good place to do it, right? It honors the god by putting him at the top of a hill or of a mountain. Notice that yes, the temple of Yahweh, Beit Yahweh, the house of God of Yahweh, was on the top of a hill, but it's not the highest hill, not by a long shot. It's not the highest hill in Jerusalem, and it's not the highest hill among the Judean hills. It's just kind of a nonchalant, or I shouldn't say nonchalant, a kind of an unimportant one of the many hills in among the Judean hills. So why was Jerusalem chosen? Well, aside from the part that Yahweh chose it, it did have one important element, which it had a spring called the Gihon Spring, which allowed water to be supplied to the city. There's a lot to say about the Gihon Spring, but that's for another time. Okay, so high places are simple hilltop installations with instruments of religion, platforms, altars, standing stones, and cairns. I have no idea where the cairn is. Are common along with the open courtyard, shrines, and sacred trees or groves. They were some of the most often seen public places of piety in the ancient Near East. They appear in the early Bronze Age at the latest. And I was just listening earlier before I started the Torah study to a YouTube video, an excellent channel. I don't remember its name offhand, where the guy was showing. He was talking about the high place that they excavated in the city of Ugarit, which was a Phoenician city that was ultimately destroyed by I believe it was the Assyrians, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, from the Hebrew Bible and from existing remains, a good idea may be formed of the appearance of such a place of worship. And here we have an example. This is at Megiddo. Okay. It was often on the hill above the town. Is it Ramah? There was a stele, a matzeva. So what is a matzeva? A matzeva is a standing stone. Let's get a picture of that. Okay, so this is kind of an occultic standing stone, or a place where a foreign god is worshipped. In Hebrew, it's called a matzeva. We're commanded to destroy the matzevot of the foreign gods in Deuteronomy, I believe it is. Okay, the seat of the deity, an Asherah pole, named after the goddess Asherah, which marked the place as sacred and was itself an object of worship. There was a stone altar, a mizbeach, often of considerable size and hewn out of solid rock or built of unhewn stones. So the mizbeach, the altar, usually translated as a sacrificial altar, is of Israel, is not to be made of hewn stones, only of dirt or unhewn stones, on which offerings were burnt, a cistern for water, and perhaps low stone tables for dressing the victims. That means butchering the animals that are to be slaughtered to this foreign god. Sometimes also a hall for the sacrificial feasts. Ancient Israelite religion was centered on these sites at festival seasons, or to make or fulfill a vow. An Israelite might journey to more famous sanctuaries at a distance from home, but ordinarily offerings were made at the Bama of his own town. The building of the Temple of Jerusalem, which under the law of Moses had an exclusive right to offer sacrifices, did not stop the Bamot sacrifices until kings Hezekiah and Josiah proscribed them, meaning destroyed them. Okay, so we get an idea of what a Bama is. Okay, so we see here that Yehoash did not get rid of these Bamot, these high places. Raka Bamot lo saru, Oda'am mizavchim umikatrim b'mamot. And the people were still bringing sacrifices, were still bringing meat sacrifices and burning incense at these high places. Now, does this mean they were bringing sacrifices and burning incense to Yahweh or to foreign gods? I believe the implication here is to foreign gods. Verse 4. Vayomer Yehoash el hakohanim kol kesef hakodashim asher yuvah beit Yahweh kesef over ish kesef nashot arko kol kesef asher ya'aleh al lev ish lavi beit Yahweh. So Yoash said to the Kohanim, said to the priests, kol kesef hakodashim asher yuvah beit Yahweh. So all of the silver for the holy items, which will be brought to the house of Yahweh. And remember, at this time, in the time of Yoash, the the temple was already standing, because this is already past the time of Solomon. Okay, kesef over ish, kesef nefashot arko. So this is speaking about money or silver. Nefashot arko, that is the value of human beings. I'm not going to pick that apart right now, but it has to do with the valuing. There's a certain, you could pledge a human being and then bring the value of that human being instead to God. Kol kesef asher ya'aleh al lev ish lavi beit Yahweh. So basically, kol kesef asher ya'aleh al lev ish lavi beit Yahweh. So so this is, why is this related to our parsha? Because it's speaking about bringing donations to the Holy Temple. Again, this is much later in the history of Israel, when Solomon's temple has already been built and is still standing, and now Yehoash, who's a good king, is speaking about, or is asking for people to bring donations to finance the Holy Temple, just as we saw in Exodus 35, where we are, that people brought all of their donations to finance the Mishkan, to finance the tabernacle in the desert. Okay, verse 5. Yichu lahem hakohanim ish me'et makoro wahem yichasku et bedek habayit lechor asher yimatzeh sham badek. Okay, so Yikulam lakohanim. So the kohanim are going to take all of these donations. Ish me'et makaro. Each Kohen will take it from his own people, his own section, or his own constituency. I think they sometimes translate it as ve'em yichasku et bedek habayit, and this will be used to strengthen, or they will strengthen, meaning these donations will be used to strengthen the bedek habayit, the damages that have been done to the house of God. Everywhere that some kind of damage has been found. So basically, this is speaking about Yehoash gathering donations from the people of Israel to be used to repair the house of God, meaning in this case Solomon's temple. Verse 6. So in the 23rd year of King Yehoash, the Kohanim had still not repaired the damages to the house of God. Verse 7. ויקרא המלך יהואש להוידע הכהן ולכהנים ויאמר אליהם. So King Yehoash called to Yehoiada. Yehoiada was the Kohen Gadol, with the high priest, ולכהנים, and to the rest of the Kohanim. ויאמר אליהם, he said to them, מדוע אינכם מחזקים את בדק הבית? Why have you not repaired? Why have you not fortified the damage to the house, or repair the damage to the house of God? ועתה אל תיקחו כסף מאת מקריכם, כי לבדק הבית תיתנוהו. And now don't take any more money from your constituents unless it is given to repair the damage to the house of God. So he's a good guy, Yoash, right? And he's calling out the priests, the chief priest, the high priest Yehoiada, and the rest of the priests, right? They donated. In other words, what he's saying is, you took all of this money, but you didn't use it to repair the house of God. Okay, you've been embezzling money. This is basically what Yoash is saying to Yehoiada and the Kohanim. You've taken money and you haven't used it as you were supposed to strengthen or to repair the house of God. You've embezzled money. You've embezzled money that was slated for God. This is holy money. This is dedicated to God. This is dedicated to the temple. And that's a no-no. Okay. ויוצאו הכהנים לבלתי קחת הכסף מאת העם ולבלתי חזק את בדק הבית. So the Kohanim agreed not to take any more money from the people, לבלתי חזק את בדק הבית, unless it was going to be used to strengthen or to repair the damage to the temple. Verse 9. ויקח יהוידע הכהן ארון אחד ויקוב חור בדלתו. So Yehoiada, the chief priest, the high priest, he took an aron. Aron it's the same word that's used for the Ark of the Covenant. It's like a You should translate it here. Let's say translate here. Chest. That's a good translation. And he drilled a hole into its, literally its door, but its cover. And he placed it next to the altar of sacrifice, miyamin, to the right. Bevo ish beit Yahweh v'natnu shama kohanim shomrei asaf et kol hakesef hamuva beit Yahweh. Bevo ish beit Yahweh. Okay, so let me translate this again. V'yikach Yodai HaKohen aron echad. So Aaron took a chest, like a treasure chest looking thing. He drilled a hole in it, in its cover. And he placed it next to the altar of sacrifice on its right. So that when any person came to the house of Yahweh, that the Kohanim would, the guarders, literally Shomrei Asaf, or the guarders of the threshold, but it basically means the guarders of the temple area. Okay, et kol hakesef hamuva beit Yahweh, that the Kohanim, those who guarded the temple area, would place all of the money that was brought to the house of Yahweh. So in other words, they put a tzedakah box next to the altar, so that when people would bring money to donate to the temple, this time it wouldn't be embezzled or it wouldn't be misspent. Right? Sounds like Joe Biden and his Democrats, right? Misspending all the money. It wouldn't be misspent, but it would actually be used to repair the house of God, right? So basically, they put one of these suckers right? One of these kind of things, one of these things, except a really big one next to the altar to make sure that the money was not taken by the Kohanim, that it was actually going to be used for what it was meant to be used for. I'm just checking any interesting comments. So you could do that. You continue to fly over country and on Yarden. Adult beverage. I think Yarden doesn't drink at all, if I'm not mistaken. The Torah is filled with unsavory characters. Better than fiction, yes, Sam, but I would. Oh, I guess I'm wrong about that. And Shabbat Shalom, Itan Avior. Okay, caught up with comments. So that's the story, right? So we saw corruption, or at least, let's say, misspending of money by the Kohanim. And now Yehoash is telling him, hey, if you take any more money, you have to promise you're going to use it to fix the house of God, to fix the holy temple. The Kohanim, Yehoyada and his Kohanim agree, and they put a giant tzedakah box next to the altar, and for the people to place the money in, so that it can be used to fix the temple. Okay, verse 10. Waihi kirotam hirava kesef ba'aron v'ya'al sofer Melech HaKohen HaGadol v'yatsuru v'yimnu et hakesef hanimsa beit Yahweh. Okay. So waihi kirotam hirava kesef ba'aron. So literally, when they saw that there was a lot of money in the tzedakah box, in the chest, in the treasure chest, Yal Sofer Melech, Kohen Gadol, then the king scribe and the high priest would go up. Uyatsuru, and I have to be honest, I don't know what this word means in this context, so let's look it up for a second. Sur, I can find. Okay, got it. Okay, from okay, got it. But what does it mean in this context? They translate here, put it in bags. I guess they tied it up. Okay, I got it. So Yatsuru, we'll go with this. They basically took it and they tied it up in bags. Wayimnu et hakesef hanimsa beit Yahweh, and they dedicated. No, not dedicated is the wrong translation. They appointed. They put aside. They set aside the money that was found, or they set aside the money that they'd gathered for the house of God. So basically, every so often they're going up the tzedakah box, they're emptying it out, they're taking that money, putting it in bags, and then they are putting it aside to be used to repair the house of God, as they're supposed to. Okay, verse 11. V'natnu et hakesef hamitukan al yidei osei hamelacha. Okay. Aseh melacha amufkadim beit Yahweh. So let's translate up to there. So they gave the money, which had been set aside, into the hands of those who literally those who did the work. But this means it's the same word that's used back in Exodus 35. It basically means the artisans, or the ones who were maybe not artisans, but the ones who were in charge of repairing the temple. I guess is exactly what it means in this context. Hamufkadim beit Yahweh, who were appointed over the house of Yahweh. In other words, those who were appointed to repair the house of Yahweh. The construction workers, Yatziu, maybe the masons. Yotziuhu lacharash ha'etz u lebonim ha'osim beit Yahweh, and they dispersed it to lacharash ha'etz, to the woodworkers, u lebonim, and to the builders. Osim bet Yahweh, who worked on, literally who did, but who worked on the house of Yahweh. Ulegodrim, ulechotzvei ha'even. So godrim are, I guess, woodcutters. Masons. Here you go. These are the masons. These are. This is where you get the masons. Goder, though. Here, let me translate this mason. From Goder. Okay, got it. All right. Lachotzvei ha'even, and to the wood, and to the stone cutters. Uliknot etzim, and to purchase wood. V'avnei machzev, and to purchase quarried stones. Lechazek et betek habayit, to repair the damage to the house of Yahweh. Lechol asher yitzeh al habayit lechaska, for all those who went out to the house to rebuild it or to strengthen it. So basically, the money is now being appropriated correctly to the artisans, to the stone workers, to the masons, to the fence, to the wall builders, and the woodworkers that were going to be paid to actually do the repairs to the house of God. Verse 13. Ach lo ya'aseh beit Yahweh isfot kesef mizmarot mizrakot chatzotzrot kol kli zahav v'kli kesef min hakesef muva beit Yahweh. But from this money that was brought, ach lo yaseh beit Yahweh, but what was not done to the house of God, spot kesef. Spot kesef is silver basins, mizmarot. These are like the cleaning forks. Here, trimmers, mizrakot, sprinkling bowls, chatzotzrot is trumpets, kol kli zahav, and all of the vessels of gold and silver. Mina kesef muva beit Yahweh. In other words, what it's saying here is that yes, they did use it to repair the house, but it wasn't being used to make these various utensils that were required for the service to Yahweh. Ki la'oseh melacha itnuhu v'hiskubo et beit Yahweh, because it was only being used for the work that was required to repair or to strengthen the house of Yahweh. Okay. Verse 15. ולא יחשבו את האנשים אשר ייתנו את הכסף על ידם לתת לעושי המלאכה, כי באמונה הם עושים. So basically, what these verses are saying is, yes, it was used only to repair the house. It wasn't used for these utensils, and because this was what the money was set aside for. It was set aside for repairing the house, not for making the utensils. Kesef Hasham bekesef hataot lo yuva beit Yahweh lekohanim yi'u. And money that was brought for Hasham and chatot. These are different types of offerings. This is the guilt offering, usually translated as. This is usually translated as sin offering, or a purification from sin offering. Lo yuva beit Yahweh. It was not brought to the house of Yahweh. In other words, it was not used to repair the house of Yahweh. The kohanim yi'u. It was given to the kohanim as it was supposed to be. So basically, this entire paragraph is saying that that the problem was corrected. All of the money was now being used as it was supposed to be. This tzedakah box was put next to the altar, and the money was now being used correctly to make repairs to the house of Yahweh, as it was supposed to be all along. Okay? You read to the end of 2 Kings 2. Az Yaleh Hazael Melech Aram, and here we have the story of Hazael. Who's Hazael? Hazael is the king of Aram. Look him up for a second. Okay. So Hazael. So under his reign, Aram Damascus became an empire that ruled over large parts of Syria and Israel. While he was likely born in the greater Damascus region of today, his exact place of birth is still controversial, with both Bashan, that's the Golan Heights, and the Bekaa Valley being favored by different historians. Hazael is first mentioned by names in 1 Kings 19:15. God tells Elijah, the prophet of God, to anoint Hazael king over Syria. Years after this, Assyrian king Ben-Hadad II, probably identical to Hadad Ezer mentioned in the Tel Dan stele, was ill and sent his court official Hazael with gifts to Elijah's successor Elisha. Elisha told Hazael to tell Hadad Ezer that he would recover, and he revealed to Hazael that the king would recover but would die of other means. He also predicted that Hazael would commit atrocities against the Israelites. Hazael denies that he is capable of perpetrating such deeds. Elijah predicts that Hazael will be king of Syria. The next day he returned to Damascus, told Hadad Ezer he would recover, but suffocated Hadad Ezer and seized power himself. So during his reign, King Hazael led the Arameans in battle against the forces of King Yehoram of Israel and King Hazael of Judah. After defeating them in Ramot Gilad, Hazael repelled 2 attacks by the Assyrians, seized Israelite territory east of the Jordan River and the Philistine city of Gat. That's where Goliath is from. Although unsuccessful, he also sought to take Jerusalem. And we're going to see that in a second. 2 Kings 12:17-18. Hazael's death is mentioned in 2 Kings 13:24. Okay, so that's Hazael. Let's finish off 2 Kings 12. Az Yaleh Hazael Melech Aram. So then Hazael, the king of Aram, came up, meaning came up to fight against the Israelites. Vayakhel al Gat. The Israelites, and he fought against Gat. Gat was one of the 5 cities of the Philistines. 5 cities of the Philistines were, anybody? I think I've asked this a couple times before. Can anybody mention the 5 cities of the Philistines for 300 points? 300 points. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Nobody, huh? Okay. Ashdod, Ashkelon, Gat, Gaza, and Ekron. Those are the 5 cities of the Philistines I've mentioned many times throughout the Tanakh. Okay, so this is one of them. Gat is where Goliath is from. It's maybe its biggest claim to fame. So Hazael, the king of Aram, conquered Gat. He placed his face literally to go up to Jerusalem. In other words, now he set his sights on Jerusalem after conquering the Philistine city of Gat. ויקח יהואש מלך יהודה את כל הקודשים אשר הקדישו. So it's a long verse. Let's break it down. So now we go back to King Joash. So Joash, the king of Judah, took et kol hakodeshim asher ikdishu. He took all of the holy items. Asher ikdishu Yoshaphat, Yehoram, Chaziyahu, Avotav, Malchei Yehuda. So he took all the holy items that, and now it mentions previous kings over Judah, Jehoshaphat, Yehoram, Joram, Chazia, Avotav, his fathers, Malchei Yehuda, the kings of Yehuda, so previous kings of Yehuda, Wa'et Kiddushao, and his own holy items that he had sanctified, V'kol hazahav hanimsa be'otzrot beit Yahweh, and all of the gold that was found, that was present in the treasuries of the house of Yahweh, Ubeit HaMelech, and the house of the king. So basically, he's emptying out all the piggy banks. Yishlach leChazael melech Aram ya'al me'al Yerushalayim, and he sent it to Hazael, the king of Aram, ya'al me'al Yerushalayim, and he departed. He left Yerushalayim. So basically, Yehoash opened up the piggy bank of all the treasures of the previous kings, of his own treasure chest, and all of the treasures of the house of God, of the holy temple, opened up the piggy bank and paid off Hazael, the king of the Aramites, of the Arameans, of Aram Damascus, to leave him alone, to go away from Jerusalem. So he paid him off. Is basically what it says. And that's it. Uyeta divrei Yoash v'chol asher asa haloim ktuvim al sefer divrei yamim l'malchei Yehuda. And the remaining acts of Yehoash v'chol asher asa, and everything that he did, halohim ktuvim, are they not written al sefer divrei, in the book, in the scroll, or in the book of the divrei hayamim, the chronicles of the kings of Judah? And I heard a very interesting lecture yesterday from, who was it who mentioned it? God, I listened to so many different lectures, I can't remember who it was. I don't remember, but there was some lecturer who said, so we have two books in the Tanakh, Chronicles, right? First Chronicles and Second Chronicles, and we have mentioned a bunch of times this, what's called Sefer Divrei Yamim L'Malchei Yehuda, which is often translated as the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah. And we also have Sefer Divrei Yamim L'Malchei Yisrael, the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel, right? The two kingdoms at this point: Southern Kingdom Judah, Northern Kingdom Israel. And we have two books in the Tanakh, First Chronicles and Second Chronicles. So is this the same book as the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah and the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel? So this particular lecturer, who's very knowledgeable, said no. He said, however, that First and Second Chronicles are based, their synopses, or their edited versions of these two previous books, the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah and the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel, which are mentioned many times throughout the Nach, throughout the prophets, the Nevi'im. Okay, so it's very possible that when we read these two books in the Tanakh, of First Chronicles and Second Chronicles, that it's synopsis or edited forms, or synopsis forms. I won't say synoptic because that's already a loaded word, but synopses of these previous books known as the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah and the Chronicles of the Kings of Israel. Verse 20. Vayakimu avadav uyikshiru kesher uyaku et Yoash beit Melo yored Salah. Okay, so what happened? Yoash, he sadly met not a nice end. Yakimu avadao, so his servants, his assistants, his slaves, servants really, rose up, biksharu kesher, and they formed a conspiracy. Literally, they tied a knot, but this also means, even in modern Hebrew, kesher implies a conspiracy. They conspired against them. Yakuit Yoash at Beit Melo Hayored Salah, and they struck down Yoash in the Beit of the Milo Hayored Salah. So the house of the Milo Hayored Salah. Whoa! Oh, we froze up. Oh shit. Okay. Oh damn it. Froze. Okay. I think you guys can hear me. Okay, so what I'm going to do is what I've been doing lately, and that is quitting Chrome. So you're going to have to give me a minute, and I'll be back, unless it corrects itself very quickly. So we do this again. I want to force the whole thing. Do this. Force quit. Nice. Okay, are we back? Are we back? Can you guys hear me? Somebody give me a sound check, please. Hello? Somebody let me know if you hear me. Somebody. All right, I'm going to assume you do. I think you do. Loud and clear. Okay, cool. Okay, so where was we? Let me share the screen again. Okay, there we go. Okay, so Beit Beno Hayored Sila or Sila. So this is a place called the Milo. The Milo is a place that has been excavated, and it's kind of the place between the city of David and the Temple Mount. We can even look at that for a second. Milo. Oh no, it's not freezing up again, is it? So this is called the Milo. Let's make sure you guys can see me. Okay, so the Milo was a structure in Jerusalem referred to in the Hebrew Bible, first mentioned as being part of the city of David in 2 Samuel 5:9, and the corresponding passage in the book of Kings, 1 Kings 9:15, and later in the books of Chronicles, etc. However, it previously seems to have been a rampart built by the Jebusites prior to Jerusalem's being conquered by the Israelites. The texts also describe the Milo built by Solomon and repaired by Hezekiah. Without giving an explanation of what exactly the Milo was, there's therefore some debate among scholars as to the Milo's specific nature. The most common assumption among archaeologists and historians of ancient Israel is that the Milo is a stepped stone structure uncovered by Kathleen Kenyon and demonstrated by Elat Mazar to be connected to a large stone structure which she discovered in 2005. And there's a picture of the Milo. So in the books of Samuel, Milo is mentioned as the boundary of David's construction while building up the city of David. After the capture of Jerusalem from the Jebusites, the new King James, blah, 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 identifies Milo as literally the landfill, while New International Version translates it as supporting terraces. Hezekiah, same guy who built the wall in Jerusalem, which you could still see in the old city of Jerusalem, called Hezekiah's Wall. And who, of course, built Hezekiah's Tunnel, where they found the famous inscription, which is now in the museum, archaeological museum. I don't know, some museum in Istanbul, Turkey. This was found when the Ottoman Empire ruled over Israel. Hezekiah's repair of the Milo is mentioned within a list of repairs to military fortifications, and several scholars generally believe that it was something connected to military activity, such as a tower, citadel, or simply a significant part of a wall. However, taking into account that the potentially cognate term mulu from Assyrian refers to earthworks, it is considered more likely that it was an embankment which flattened the slope between Ophel and the Temple Mount. So we won't get into all of this stuff, but basically the Milo is, let's see if you can see it here. So here's Mount Moriah, the temple. Here it is, the Milo. And where's the city of David? So this is Valley of Hinnom. This is the Kidron Valley. So so it's going to be this. Here's the city of David down here. Okay. So okay. So the Milo is they're placing it right here. Okay, so it's kind of between the city of David and the Temple Mount. Okay. Anywho, it's mentioned here, Ayored Sila. So they killed him when he was chilling in his house in the Milo. Verse 21, wait. Yo Zavad ben Shim'ah, Zavad ben Shomer, Avadal, Hikuhu. So these two people killed him. Yamot, and he died. Yikparuoto im Avatal, Be'ir Dawid. And they buried him with his fathers in the city of David. Loch Amatzia beno tachtau, and his son Amatzia reigned in his place, reigned under him, or in his place. Okay? So that is that. And with that, we come to the end of the Haftarah. In fact, I think we did more than the Haftarah. So we can go back now, and let's see, how long have we been doing this? I think I'll end probably in around 20 minutes or so, but let's go back to where we were. So we are now in Exodus 36. We finished Exodus 35. And let's go on now to Exodus 36. So we're back to flyover country, Yarden. Sorry. But let's do it. Okay, verse 1. Well, I'm just going to read. I will not translate into English unless there's something I want to say. You can follow along on your own. Wa'asa b'salel holiav v'chol ish Hakham Melech asher natan Yahweh chokhmah u'tevuna bahema leda'at ta'asot et kol malechet avodat hakodesh l'chol asher tziwa Yahweh. So basically now Bezalel and Aholiav, they're going to now do the actual work of building the Mishkan. Verse 2. ויקרא משה אל בצלאל ואל אהוליאב ואל כל איש חכם לב אשר נתן יהוה חוכמה בליבו, כל אשר נשאו ליבו לקרבה אל המלאכה לעשות אותה. Verse 3. ויקחו מלפני משה את כל התרומה אשר הביאו בני ישראל למלאכת עבודת הקודש לעשות אותה, והם הביאו אליו עוד נדבה בבוקר בבוקר. So they're bringing a lot of donations. Okay, all the people of Israel. יבוא כל החכמים עושים את כל מלאכת הקודש, איש איש ממלאכתו אשר הם עושים, ויאמרו אל משה לאמור, מרבים העם להביא מידי העבודה למלאכה אשר ציווה יהוה לעשות אותה. So basically, the people who are doing the work tell Moses, the people are bringing too much. We don't need all this stuff. We have enough already. We have everything we need to build the tabernacle and the surroundings and everything associated with. The people are brought too much. And the Torah is trying to point something out here, which is very important, which is it's trying to show what big hearts, what dedication, or no, that's the wrong word, what spirit the people of Israel had in bringing donations. They kept on bringing and bringing and bringing to the point where it was already too much, and the craftsmen had to tell Moses to tell the people to stop bringing stuff already. We have enough. Okay, pointing out, right? We see so many times in the Torah all of the complaints against Israel, how rebellious they are, how they rebel against God, they rebel against Moses. And here we have a good picture of the people of Israel. They were so, their spirit had, and their hearts had so drawn them to donate to the building of the tabernacle that way more than enough was collected. And now Moses is going to have to tell everybody to stop bringing stuff. Verse 6. ויצא משה יעבירו כל במחנה לאמור איש ואישה אל יעשו עוד מלאכה לתרומת הקודש ויקלה העם מאבי. So Moses told everyone to stop bringing stuff, and they stopped. המלאכה הייתה דיים וכל המלאכה לעשות אותה ויותר. So they had more than enough. The construction proceeds, as this headline in English tells us. Verse 8, وَيَعْسُوا كَلْ Hakham Melech. Just 1 second, please. One second. Technical issue here. Let's check something. Oh, God. Oh, God. 1 second, please. Okay. Okay, we're good. All right, so ויעשו כל חכם לב בעושי המלאכה את המשכן 10 גיריות, 6 מוסר, תכלת וארגמן ותולעת שני, כרובים מעשה חושב עשה אותם. So now it's mentioning the various parts of the tabernacle that were being constructed. אורך היריעה האחת 28 באמה, רוחב 4 באמה, היריעה האחת, מידה 1 לכל היריעות. Verse 10. ויחבר את 5 יריעות אחד אל אחת, 5 יריעות חיבר אחת אל אחת. Verse 11. So this is talking about the details of the construction of the tabernacle, or actually in this case, the coverings of the tent. יעש לולאות תכלת על שפת היריעה האחת, מקצה במחברת, כן עשה שפת היריעה הקיצונה במחברת השנית. Verse 12. 50 לולאות עשה ביריעה האחת, ו50 לולאות עשה בקצה היריעה אשר במחברת השנית, מקבילות הלולאות אחד אל אחד. Verse 13. ויעש 50 חלצי זהב, ויחבר את היריעות אחד אל אחד בקרסים, ויהי המשכן אחד. So this so ויהי המשכן אחד, so the Mishkan became one. In other words, the Mishkan was finished being constructed. It was brought together as a single unit. This is not meant to be some kind of spiritual statement. It's just a statement of fact that the construction of the Mishkan was completed. Okay, verse 14. Again, follow along in English. Yas yiriot izim laohel al hamishkan. Shtei asrei yiriot sa'otam. So now this is the covering to the tabernacle. Orech היריעה האחד 30 באמה ו4 אמות, רוחב היריעה אחד, מידה 1 ל12 יריעות. Verse 16. ויחבר את 5 היריעות לבד ואת 6 היריעות לבד, ויעש לולאות 50 על שפת היריעה הקיצונה במחברת, ו50 לולאות עשה על שפת היריעה החוברת השנית. יעש קרסי נחושת 50, חבר את האוהל להיות אחד. So now the tent of meeting, or the tent that goes above the actual tabernacle, להיות אחד, also became one, was completed. Verse 19. יעש מכסה לאוהל אורות אלין, מאדמים, מאדמים, ומכסה אורות תחשים מלמעלה. So this is all, again, this is really repetitive. I don't want to say boring because it really is fascinating to me, but it's definitely flyover country. So I think is that really so? I think we're going to just skip it. And we'll move on to 37. So this is the construction of the ark. I don't know if there's anything that I really want to point out here. We know what the Ark of the Covenant is supposed to look like. We've studied it before. The showbread, the lampstand, the altar of incense. And I guess we could read through it just for completeness. But I think we shouldn't. We have to go down to 38:20. I think we shouldn't. I think what we should do instead is play a video for the construction of the ark. And I think I played it last week, or of the tabernacle. But I think I forgot to turn the sound on. So let's try to see if we can find it again. Give me a second here. Give me a second here, please. Actually, let me do it in a different window. Go that way, and then I'll just bring it over. So give me 1 second here, and let me see. Find it. Building of the tabernacle. See if we can find a good one. There are a bunch. Tabernacle Moses structure. Oh, okay, this was it. Let's play this. The innovation. Okay, let's try this one. And then maybe we can play another one. Construction of the tabernacle. Let's go for this one. I think this is the one we tried last week. So let's copy the link. Share. Copy. We'll bring it back here. Bring it up here. Let me make sure this time the sound is working. Okay, so give me 1 second here. So this is from a channel called Messages of Christ. It's not my fault, okay? I'm sorry, but due to the activities of a particular Karaite, I always need to point out when I play anything that is in some way related to Christian content, I am not a Christian or a Messianic in any way, shape, or form. Never have, am not now, never will be. So I put that out for sad, but perhaps obvious reasons for those who are in the Karaite world. So, but you know, the Christians, just as the secular scholars, often put out some good, interesting, useful stuff, and I guess this is going to be one of them. But I guess we can see. Can I hide this Messages of Christ thing? Okay. All right. Let's see if we can get this going. No, I got to do this way. So I've got to. What is going on here? Present. Stop screen. Present. Share screen. Building of the tabernacle. Audio is on. Chrome tab. Share. No, that's not what I wanted. This goes bye-bye. Let's try that again. Present. Share screen. This is the one. Share. Okay, now please let me know if you cannot hear it, or if you can't hear the video, please tell me immediately. Okay, I'm going to turn my own sound off.
Moreover, thou shalt make the tabernacle with 10 curtains of fine twined linen, and blue, and purple, and scarlet, with cherubims of cunning work shalt thou make them. The length of one curtain shall be 28 cubits, and the breadth of one curtain 4 cubits, and every one of the curtains shall have one measure. The 5 curtains shall be coupled together one to another, and other 5 curtains shall be coupled one to another. And thou shalt make loops of blue upon the edge of the one curtain, from the selvage in the coupling. And likewise shalt thou make in the uttermost edge of another curtain, in the coupling of the second. 50 loops shalt thou make in the one curtain, and 50 loops shalt thou make in the edge of the curtain that is in the coupling of the second, that the loops may take hold one of another. And thou shalt make 50 taches of gold, and couple the curtains together with the taches, and it shall be one tabernacle. And thou shalt make curtains of goat's hair, to be a covering upon the tabernacle. 11 curtains shalt thou make. The length of one curtain shall be 30 cubits, and the breadth of one curtain 4 cubits. And the 11 curtains shall be all of one measure. And thou shalt couple 5 curtains by themselves, and 6 curtains by themselves, and shalt double the 6th curtain in the forefront of the tabernacle. And thou shalt make 50 loops on the edge of the one curtain that is outmost in the coupling, and 50 loops in the edge of the curtain which coupleth the second. And thou shalt make 50 taches of brass, and put the taches into the loops, and couple the tent together, that it may be one. And the remnant that remaineth of the curtains of the tent, the half curtain that remaineth, shall hang over the backside of the tabernacle, and a cubit on the one side, and a cubit on the other side of that which remaineth in the length of the curtains of the tent. It shall hang over the sides of the tabernacle on this side and on that side, to cover it. And thou shalt make a covering for the tent of ram skins dyed red, and a covering above of badgers' skins. And thou shalt make boards for the tabernacle of shittim wood, standing up. 10 cubits shall be the length of a board, and a cubit and a half shall be the breadth of one board. 2 tenons shall there be in one board, set in order one against another. Thus shalt thou make for all the boards of the tabernacle. And thou shalt make the boards for the tabernacle, 20 boards on the south side southward. And thou shalt make 40 sockets of silver under the 20 boards, 2 sockets under one board for his 2 tenons, and 2 sockets under another board for his 2 tenons. And for the second side of the tabernacle on the north side there shall be 20 boards, and there 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under one board, and 2 sockets under another board. And for the sides of the tabernacle westward thou shalt make 6 boards, and 2 boards shalt thou make for the corners of the tabernacle in the 2 sides. And they shall be coupled together beneath, and they shall be coupled together above the head of it unto one ring. Thus shall it be for them both. They shall be for the 2 corners. And they shall be 8 boards, and their sockets of silver 16 sockets, 2 sockets under one board, and 2 sockets under another board. And thou shalt make bars of shittim wood, 5 for the boards on the one side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the boards on the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the boards of the side of the tabernacle for the 2 sides westward. And the middle bar in the midst of the boards shall reach from end to end. And thou shalt overlay the boards with gold, and make their rings of gold for places for the bars, and thou shalt overlay the bars with gold. And thou shalt rear up the tabernacle according to the fashion thereof which was showed thee in the mount. And thou shalt make a veil of blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen of cunning work, with cherubims shall it be made. And thou shalt hang it upon the 4 pillars of shittim wood, overlaid with gold. Their hooks shall be of gold, upon the 4 sockets of silver. And thou shalt hang up the veil under the taches, that thou mayest bring in thither within the veil the ark of the testimony. And the veil shall divide unto you between the holy place and the most holy. And thou shalt put the mercy seat upon the ark of the testimony in the most holy place. And thou shalt set the table without the veil, and the candlestick over against the table on the side of the tabernacle, towards the south. And thou shalt put the table on the north side. And thou shalt make an hanging for the door of the tent, of blue and purple and scarlet, and fine twined linen, wrought with needlework. And thou shalt make for the hangings 5 pillars of shittim wood, and overlay them with gold, and their hooks shall be of gold. And thou shalt cast 5 sockets of brass for them.
Okay, so with that being said, or with that being shown, I think we'll start bringing the Torah study to a conclusion for this week. I will point out that if you're ever in Israel and you go to Eilat, about a half an hour north of Eilat is Timna Park. Highly recommended to visit. Really beautiful and interesting, and a lot of history there, as is everywhere in Israel. But there, they've built a replica of the tabernacle out in the park there, out in the desert, and you can visit it. They'll give you tours of the tabernacle, and it really is worth the trip if you want to learn more about the tabernacle, because reading it is difficult enough. Seeing a video of it is better, but actually being in the tabernacle, walking around the tabernacle, seeing the actual dimensions, touching the various parts of the tabernacle, is if a picture's worth 1,000 words, a video is worth 10,000 words, and an actual replica, life-size replica, is worth 1,000,000 words. So I highly recommend, if you're anywhere near Eilat in Israel, in southern Israel, take a day trip, take the kids, go about a half an hour north of Eilat to Timna Park, and visit the replica of the tabernacle there. And when we went there, it was just, there was a tour guide who was just amazing. He was so knowledgeable, and I believe he was, I don't know what he was actually, but he was definitely Karaite leaning. You could tell by what he was saying. I don't know officially in a Karaite, but he's very knowledgeable, and he really gave a good tour of the place. So visit it if you're near Eilat. Okay, so that being said, are there any questions, any comments before we wrap it up here? Going once, going twice, going thrice. I'll just finish off by saying, as a closing monologue, that my thought in closing is, we hear on TV, there are a lot of people who are pro-Israel. Douglas Murray comes to mind, for instance. Obviously, those representing the government of Israel come to mind. Who else? Ben Shapiro, who honestly I can't stand, comes to mind. These are all pro-Israel voices, and there are a lot of anti-Israel voices out there. Obviously, any of the representatives of the so-called Palestinians, a scum like what's his name? Oh God, Norman Finkelstein. If you ever had the nearly nausea-inducing displeasure of hearing him, and many others out there, and they will, so you hear pro-Israel voices and you hear anti-Israel voices, and they often get into debates. And at the end of the day, I think these debates are silly, because it's not that they're stating facts and those facts are leading to their opinions or feelings about Israel. It's that they already have predetermined feelings about Israel, and then they're stating the facts that are in line with those predetermined feelings. And this really gets down to the bottom line. When you're watching various videos, or when you're making your choice, okay, you're either for Israel or you're against Israel. There is no in between. And I'll give you an example of someone who's in between, okay? And the way you feel about Israel is going to be the way that you see and interpret the facts that you hear, or see and interpret the information that you hear. If you're a lover of Israel, you're going to see all of the information in a way that is favorable or pro-Israel. If you're a hater of Israel, you're going to see and you're going to bring out all the information that is against Israel. And then you have some that are, but I'll get to that in a second. And so therefore, I always remind people, those who bless Israel shall be blessed, and those who curse Israel shall be cursed. It's actually said about Abraham, but it applies to Israel as well. And many other similar statements are made in the Tanakh. So make your choice wisely. You're either love Israel or you hate Israel. There's very little in between. If you love Israel, if an individual, a group, a country loves Israel, they will be blessed. If an individual, group, country hates Israel, they will be cursed. And then you have some people who are right on the fence, such as, for instance, Piers Morgan. You've ever watched some of his stuff? He tries to be impartial. He's on the fence. He tries to, to take both sides or understand both sides of the issue. And you can't do that. There are no two sides to the issue. You have to make a choice. You cannot be on the fence. To those who are on the fence, I would recall it is 2 Kings. No, it's not 2 Kings. Yes, it's 2 Kings. Oh, geez, I gotta find it. Where it is. Let me find Elijah versus the prophets of Baal. 1 Kings 18:20. That makes more sense. So in 1 Kings 18:20, we studied this. I think it was last week. So Elijah comes up against the prophets of the Baal, and they have a big showdown. And Elijah tells to the people, make your choice. And the famous verse is, where is it? What's it again? (1820). Say, hold on 1 second. I'm gonna find it. 1820. Wait, what the heck is going on here? Oh, this is 2 Kings. That's why I can't find it. 1 Kings 18:20. כל מיני ישראל יקפוץ את הנביאים ויאמר אל הנביא הבעל בכם הפר, אוקיי? כל העם גישו את שבטי יעקב. Where is it? Oh, geez. I'll find it right now. ישלח אחאב, לראות אחאב את אליהו וימנעו. הנביא הבעל וכל בכם. Here it is. So it's 1820. 1821. So Eliyahu says to the people, Yigash Eliyahu El Kol Ha'am. So Eliyahu approached all of the people who were gathered there to see this big showdown between the 450 prophets of the Baal and just him representing Yahweh. Yomer, and he said, Ad matai atem poschim al shtei asifim. Until when will you skip or dance al shtei asifim? Will you skip back and forth between two sides of the gap? Basically, how long you're going to be on both sides of the fence. Im Yahweh ha-Elohim, lechu acharav. If Yahweh is God, go after him. Ve'ima Baal lechu acharav. And if the Baal is God, go after him. Ve'lo anu ha'am oto davar. And the people couldn't answer. So that's what I say to all those people on the fence. You cannot be on the fence. You either love Israel or you hate Israel. And if you're on the fence, for how much longer are you gonna skip on two sides of the gap? If Yahweh is God, go after him. And if you're on the side of the Baal, then go after him. Okay? So just an insight in how to interpret all these various debates, these pro-Israel voices we see, these anti-Israel voices that we see. It's not that they're taking facts and then making their decisions. They have their decisions in advance, and then they're taking the pieces of information, presenting them as facts to support their feelings that they had beforehand. So you either love Israel. If you do, then you are on the side of Yahweh, and you will be blessed, because those who bless Abraham and his descendants, meaning Israel, will be blessed. If you hate Israel, then you are on the side of the Baal, of these foreign gods. You hate Israel, and you will be cursed, because those who curse Israel shall be cursed. So that's it. The facts actually are secondary to the feeling, the a priori feeling that you have. If you have an a priori love for Israel, you will see all the information in a way that is favorable to Israel. And if you hate Israel, if you have an a priori hatred of Israel, you'll see all the information in a way that is detrimental to Israel. And so I find these debates to be meaningless, because people just trot out their facts based on what they are already feeling. And really what people should be saying when they go in those debates, if I were ever to debate some of these people, I would just say you either love Israel or you hate Israel. Okay, if you love it, I would say what I just said right now. Okay, you're gonna find facts that are in line with your underlying feelings, and therefore those who bless Israel shall be blessed, those who curse Israel shall be cursed, and all of the rest is actually secondary to that. Okay, not to say that Israel can't be criticized. God knows the prophets. I'm going through the book of Jeremiah as of late. God, if he criticizes Israel greatly, but he does it out of a love of Israel. And I don't think that many of the people criticizing Israel, including many Jews who criticize Israel, are doing it out of a love of Israel. There are some seriously disturbed individuals like this Norm Finkelstein, if you ever saw this guy, and they just hate their own. They either hate Israel, or if they're Jews, they hate their own people. Something seriously wrong with them. Okay, with that, I will end. And we will bring it to a conclusion. We'll go out with music today, as we often do. I thank you for joining the study. Hope you enjoyed it. And Be'ezrat Yahweh, we will see you again next week. Let me just say a couple things. You know, our website is, the World Alliance of Qara'im website is there, worldallianceofqara'im.org. You can also visit my personal Karaite website, that's karaiteinsights.com or .org, karaiteinsights.com or .org. And I also want to let everybody know about the newspaper that I published in Jerusalem. Physical copies we would hand out all over Jerusalem and around Jerusalem, sometimes got as far as Hebron and Bethlehem, between 1997 and 2000, for about 3 years, almost 3 years. And lately I've been bringing it back on the internet. I've kind of dabbled with it over the years, but I'm really trying to bring it back strongly over in recent times, especially since October 7th. And that's Your Jerusalem. It's www.yourjerusalem.org. So there it is. Please spread the word about the newspaper. Let everybody know about it. And there we go. Let everybody know about it. Check it out. And if you have any ideas for an article that you'd like to write, you can always contact Your Jerusalem at the email address. You'll see it on the website itself. And that's it for this video. Please like and subscribe and all these kinds of things, because it gets the word out. I'd really like to increase the amount of people that are joining these studies, and because there's so much interest in Karaism and Tanach-only Judaism out there, I really think the time is right for us to get this message out. So thank you for joining me in the study. Wish you all a Shabbat Shalom and a Shavua Tov. And Be'ezrat Yahweh, we'll see you again next week. We'll go out with some music.
זה היה יעד מבוצר בצורה בלתי רגילה. בשלב מסוים של הלחימה נשארו לידי 4 חיילים בלבד. עלינו לשם בכוח של 2 פלוגות. לא ידעתי היכן האחרים, כיוון שהקשר עם דודיק המ"פ ניתק עוד בתחילת הקרב. באותו רגע חשבתי שכולם נהרגו. 2:30 נכנסנו דרך הטרשים בשדה האש והמוקשים של גבעת התחמושת.
מחר אולי נפליג בספינות לחופלת התחום שלה, ועל המשחטות הישנות יטעינו תפוחי זהב. כל זה אינו משל ולא חלום, זה נכון כאור בצהריים. כל זה יבוא מחר אם לא היום, ואם לא מחר אז מחרתיים.
מחר, אולי בכל המשעולים, הרי בעבר צאן ינהר. מחר יכו באלף ענבלים המון בהמונים שלך.
כל זה אינו משל ולא חלום, זה נכון כאור בצהריים. כל זה יבוא מחר אם לא היום, ואם לא מחר אז מחרתיים. מחר שהצבא יפשוט מדיו, ליבנו יעבור לדור. מחר כל איש יבנה בשתי ידיו את מה שהוא חלם היום. כל זה אינו משל ולא חלום, זה נכון כאור בצהריים. כל זה יבוא מחר אם לא היום, ואם לא מחר אז מחרתיים.
אם לא מחר אז מחרתיים. אם לא מחר אז מחרתיים. בשיר אהוב במרפסות. אם לא מחר אז מחרתיים. שלל כלניות וצבעונים. אם לא מחר אז מחרתיים. יעלו מתוך הריסות.
כל זה אינו משל ולא חלום, זה נכון כאור בצהריים. כל זה יבוא מחר אם לא היום, ואם לא מחר אז מחרתיים. כל זה אינו משל ולא חלום, זה נכון כאור בצהריים. כל זה יבוא מחר אם לא היום, ואם לא מחר, ואם עוד לא מחר, ואם עוד לא מחר, אז מחרתיים, מחרתיים. היום בו נקראתי למלך, היום מתארץ ציון ושנאה, הדחי מסתירתי למלך, ותנעל ביתי מלפניו. הדחי מסתירתי למלך, ותנעל ביתי מלפניו.
השרון והעמק לא נולדו, לא קציר, לא קטיף, לא ביער, אלוהים לידו בחתנו, ותבחר את התפילת עליין, ותבחר אלוהים לידו בחתנו, ותבחר את התפילת עליין.
כאן חיים כאן המלך, ולדקה כל ארצנו תמיד. תנו לעמק בחמה תפארת, יתנשא גם עליך בלי. תעשינו בעמק בחמה תפארת, יתנשא גם עליך בלי. כי אנחנו שדך נתן, גלות מהכל גדול, אלוהים לשלטון וחתנו, על לבן וגדול ונדון, אלוהים לשלטון וחתנו, על לבן וגדול ונדון. אוויר הרים צלול כיין, וריח אורני, נישא ברוח הארבעים, עם כל פעמונים. ובתרדמת אילן ואבן, שבויה בחלומה, העיר אשר בדד יושבת ובליבה חומה. ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור, הלא לכל שירייך אני כינור. ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור, הלא לכל שירייך אני כינור. איכה יבשו בורות המים, כיכר השוק ריקה, ואין פוקדת הר הבית בעיר העתיקה. ובמערות אשר בסלע והלילות תרופות, ואין יורד אל ים המלח בדרך יריחו. ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור, הלא לכל שירייך אני כינור. ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור, הלא לכל שירייך אני כינור. אך בבואי היום לשיר לך ולך לקשור כתרים, קטונתי מצעיר פנייך ומאחרון המשוררים. כי שמך צורב את השפתיים, כי נשיקת צרה, אם אשכחך ירושלים אשר כולה זהב. ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור, הלא לכל שירייך אני כינור. ירושלים של זהב ושל נחושת ושל אור, הלא לכל שירייך אני כינור.
בימים עלומים של פרעות ודמים, הלילות השמונים של ילוד. בערים בכפרים את דגלינו נרים, ועליו הגנה המחירות. יעשנו בשוב כהמון הפגים, ולשתות בנך לגבינו. עמנו להיות לעולם נבואים, חלומנו למות בארצנו. בימים אדומים של פרעות ודמים, בלילות השחורים של ילדות. ולכן הדברים בדגלנו נרים, ועלה הגנה וחיבור.